Hello, hello. Welcome back to our channel, newly named The Cultured Corner, where we talk about things, high control group, cults, scams, all those things for anyone who's interested in that kind of stuff. And so back in February, this beautiful woman, Tania Diaz, and her sister Yao came on and graced us with an episode in Spanish about her experience in the International Churches of Christ, the ICOC, which is closely related to and has a lot of similar traits to the ICC, the COC, and all of the ICEC variations. And so many people were interested. I've had people asking me, when is the English episode? When is the English episode? And that is today. I'll be kind of asking some questions, but Tania, she is a former staff member, paid. She's been on the mission field. She's traveled. She speaks Spanish and English. Do you speak any other languages?
Just Spanish and English. The best that I can, at least.
Yes. And so bilingual, she's done a lot of work. She has a lot of experience. She's very passionate. And I do not want to give too much information to steal her thunder, but I guess to start off, Tania, first of all, thank you so much. There's so much this can be very scary. It can be scary just for kind of like your average member, not to diminish anyone's experience, to come out and share these experiences. Some people are even so nervous of being seen that they don't comment publicly. No shame. I completely understand it, but they'll send private messages or DMs. And so for you to have actually been at the top, kind of in the holy of holies, the inner sanctum, there is a lot kind of riding on this for you, at least emotionally. Not so much anymore. You're not that entangled with them, but also kind of, because I know there can be some threats there. I don't want to give too much away, but to hand it over, can you give a brief summary of your ministry and leadership experience in the ICOC?
Yeah. Nikita, thank you so much, first of all, for having me. Last time we were here in your sacred space that you kindly offer for me and my sister, we had so much fun. It was so good to be able to laugh at some, really extreme, ridiculous, awful things. Being able to do it in Spanish was also really great for my heart, of course. And thank you for offering that space. So I really wanted to start by saying that, and also that you, Asha, and I'd say they're saying this saying of it takes a village, right? I think it takes a village to raise children, but it also takes a village to help survivors of cults. So you being part of this village, you and Asha and Nikita, with that famous video of you, I can't even remember. Does that one has a specific name? That episode, but you know which one I'm.
The first one.
Yes.
Hierarchy and leader worship.
Yes. So just understanding. Okay, so they're speaking so clear. They're being so transparent, and I don't see any lie in what they're sharing. And it was also like, oof, okay, so you know how powerful it is when someone names what is happening, what is happening to you, what is happening around you. So thank you for that. We didn't even know each other. We didn't even know that eventually we'll connect somehow. And I love that. I love that. I loved especially two wonderful, beautiful, gorgeous women of color doing this, which is also so difficult to find. We're always hearing specific voices, and let alone like women. It's a hard, especially from the place we come from, and let alone women of color, right? So thank you for that. Thank you for that space. And so after that, yes, my curriculum in the ministry, I became part-time staff when I was in college. So I was like I'd say I was 20 when I started working part time, and I started working for the teens. And yeah, it was right after, in the morning I went to school, and then my entire afternoon was dedicated to teens around Mexico City. And then from that, I became a missionary. I I was I took part of the mission team that planted the cult in La Habana, Cuba. And then after that, I came back to Mexico City after 4 years, almost 4 years being in Cuba. I came back to Mexico City, and I came back to, start from zero. And then eventually, I'd say 1 or 2 years after that, I became again a missionary. Now this time with my then boyfriend, and we went to, of course, why not, another branch of the cult in another city in Mexico. It is called Aguascalientes. Then we came back and continue being part of the ministry there in Mexico City. When we came back from Aguascalientes, we started serving the singles at this specific region in the north part of Mexico. Then after that, I I think we were let go, um, and then eventually we were like applying for a position in Boston, where we live now. So we moved to Boston 11 years ago, and those were the years that I've been working for. I mean, I worked for the Boston ICOC for the Spanish speaking ministry, my husband and I. So I'd say in total, working for the ICOC, more than 20 years for sure. So a good chunk of time, a good chunk of my life, I've been paid uh, to do this for the ICOC.
Yeah. So, how did you? Sorry, finishing up my breakfast. But I feel like we're all kind of friends and family here on this channel.
Mhm,
There, somebody could probably take all these little clips of me just
mhm.
eating in these videos. But how did you initially become a member? So that's like your leadership story, which is very significant. But how did you initially become a member? And I guess how long before you were just a disciple before your first thing the mission team?
No, I worked for the teens before
Okay,
going
right.
to the mission.
So then how long were you a disciple before you kind of got recruited into the teens?
Yeah. Okay, so I became a member of the ICOC when I was 18, finishing my first year in college, finishing my freshman year, you would say, here in the United States. In this huge, 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 I would say it's the biggest college in Mexico, in entire Mexico, in the entire country. And yeah, I mean, I was recruited. I, it is not the same name, but at this specific college I was studying, by the end of the first year, most of the people would feel like, I don't know if I believe in God anymore, and developing this critical thinking and our own identities, I guess. So it was a very safe space to consider, to question faith in all forms, right? So I really felt that I'm not sure I'm a believer. I really would like to become an atheist. I think that would make more sense to me. But I really wanted, like, I've never read, I suppose I need to know about the Bible, because, that's what's closest to Catholicism, at least. That was like the background in my family. Not very religious, like, Catholics for quinceañeras and weddings, and then some special events in the year, but not that, you know, um, active. So I thought, well, maybe reading the Bible, and I considered that option before declaring myself an atheist. So for some reason, yeah, I was recruited. I was trying to find at my school. There were a group of students who had a Christian context, a Christian, yeah, Christian context, but they were from different churches, and they were offering Bible studies. This was not the ICOC. This was a network, of different students from different churches who were working together, like to get together and have a Bible study. Pretty, like, very open, very, like, they were not recruiting. They were just like, there's this space for anyone who wants to come once a week. We don't care about where you go. Just know that there's this space. So,
That is like such a foreign concept to me.
yeah,
What? Read the Bible and not recruiting?
yeah, yeah. So we were basically like, come whatever you like, as many times as you like very laid back, very, I would say, very respectful space. And I went to try to find this group one of those Fridays that I didn't have a party to go with my friends in college. and and instead of finding them, I found a member of the ICOC, and I asked her, hey, have you seen this group who studies the Bible? And obviously she was like, what? I was probably an answer prayer for her.
You want to study the Bible? God delivered me a seeking soul.
Yeah, and she was like, her face was like, I don't know who you're looking for, but I studied the Bible and we studied the Bible. And the first thing that came to my mind was like, I didn't know there were these big number of religious people in college. Like, I had no idea.
Mhm.
And but I didn't care. Like, I just want to know, can someone study the Bible with me, or can we study the Bible together? That's it. Pure, like, intellectual, wanting to know. And specifically, my goal, Nikita, was I want to know what I don't believe. Right. So it took me, I don't know. I stopped seeing her. I saw her that time. She kept, I even forgot who she was, but she kept calling me every week to invite me to a service, to a Sunday service. And then at some point, I used to work during the weekends. I have my college during the week, and one of those weekends, um, I was available, and I was like, this girl is being so, like, persistent, right? And she was really lovely, of course, which is really interesting, Nikita, because I truly believed in her good intentions, and I truly believe she had good intentions. And I told her one of those days, well, that weekend, say, hey, come to my house. We were on break, summer break in college, and she basically put some colorful thing in her hand so I can recognize her at the train station, where I pick her up, brought her to my house. And from that day, it took 2 weeks for me to get baptized.
Wow. What was it that had you like, oh, well, I'm in. I'm in.
I'd say I remember feeling that Jesus was so attractive. Like, I could not believe how real, how human, how relatable Jesus is. And I felt like this must be true. And then for some reason, from being someone who would question things, that used to be my nature. you know Curious questioner, someone who would just read and investigate. And for some reason, and it definitely had to do where I was emotionally, being 18, how vulnerable you are in so many ways, Nikita, like, so many ways. And I don't know. It was super quick. I There were some times where I felt like, this is kind of weird. This is kind of intense. I remember one that weekend I didn't go to church with her. I had work, and she was like, and I needed to travel that weekend, and she was so worried about me not bringing my Bible. And, oh, but you didn't bring your Bible. She was like so worried. And I felt like it's okay, like it's gonna be just 2 days, like what could happen, right? And she like called someone, found someone to bring a Bible for me before I leave. And I was like, oh, this is so, it was weird, but I wasn't able to see anything. Again, this beautiful young woman giving me her time and giving me like all this attention. And I was like, oh, I ended up feeling that was weird. I ended up feeling like this is more serious than I was thinking. But I was not scared. I was like curious, like why is it? And then I would say the other, during the studies that I feel like this is weird, is when we got this study of discipleship, and I was asked if I was willing to leave everything if God asked me to, for being a disciple. And deep in my heart, I felt like, no, like there are things that I won't be able to do. Like I won't do that. And I remember this girl who was studying the Bible with me. She told me, well, for example, if Jesus would ask me to leave my school, like if my school would prevent me from being a disciple of Jesus, I would leave my school. And I was like, oh. And I said, yes. But I was like, never. Like, that would never happen.
Never.
But I was not honest. And I said, yes.
Maybe your
So,
baptism wasn't real.
yeah. And, this study of dark and light, I think it's called in English. They gave it to me twice because I was not repentant enough. They brought more, more in a higher level in that leadership. They brought someone else to help me because I was not broken enough, for my sins. But that didn't feel, again, I just felt like all these girls are giving all this time from them. This must be serious. This must be some really important thing. And then I just, I actually read all the things that they want me to read. I started praying. And then I felt like, oh, this is my faith now. And I
Mm.
was definitely all in. Even when we got to the point of, that last study when they say that you will not be able to date anyone outside the ICOC, I felt like, I don't care. I really don't care. I couldn't be less interested in dating anyone, you know? Like, they could have asked me anything, Nikita. Like, you will not be able to wear pants anymore. You will not be able to use makeup anymore. I would say yes. Like, yeah, that's fine. Is that something important? I think someone will show me in the Bible why it's important. So I'm okay with that. Not even that part of you will not be able to date anyone outside. I mean, they said you cannot date someone who's not a disciple. They didn't say you cannot date someone inside of the ICOC. But I was, even if they would say that, I would say yes. I say yes. And I was all in. So I'd
And
say,
all in 2 weeks.
say it again.
Oh, all in 2 weeks.
All in 2 weeks. My
Wow.
parents, my dad was like, I don't know what's happening, but you're 18, you're legally an adult at 18 in Mexico. You can vote, you can drink, you can drive. and and my parents, when I told them that I was going to get baptized after 2 weeks of studying the Bible, my mom was really angry at me. She was like, this is not right. I'm worried. Where are you? And
Mm.
my response, by that, I was already so well indoctrinated. My answer to my mom was, Mom, just come and see. Like one of the disciples of Jesus, just come and see. Come and see with your own eyes. And my dad was less, reactive. And he was like, so you're getting baptized? Just make sure you don't change your name. I really like your name. And I was like, Dad, no, it's not about that. And, I wanted to evangelize them right away. And none of them wanted to be there with me in my baptism. So I I was told all these were gonna be challenges I needed to face, and that my faith would be put to test, right? So my mom getting angry, my mom getting worried was not like a red flag for me. It was not. It was a sign that I was doing the right thing. That this is normal. This will be my life as a disciple of Jesus. So I was expecting, I was told that was going to happen. I was told that Jesus, had to decide between her own family, her mom and her brothers, yeah, his family, sorry, and the disciples, right? So I was ready. I was
Yeah.
all in, Nikita, right away. And 2 months after, only 2 months after, I was chosen to take part of this special group that the main leader of the Mexico, branch, the ICOC branch. It used to be a couple from here, from the United States, um, and actually, the lead evangelist is related to Kip McKing at the time, the leader at the time. So, anyways, that couple was leading Mexico City Church, and I was asked to, I was chosen, sorry, to take part of that group. I don't know if that existed here, but they called it Deborah's. Deborah's, you know,
Yeah.
thinking about, Deborah, who's a prophetess. It's so funny because Deborah was used as, this is a great leader, but we never really went deep into what kind of leader Deborah was, like leading everyone in Judges 4. Anyways, I was called to participate in that. It was just one women from each region of the entire church. So we were a group of, I don't know, maybe 8, maybe 12, from a church of how much we were at the time, 2,000 people.
And you were chosen after just 2 months?
I was chosen in just 2 months, Nikita. So obviously, I was like, that's too much attention, right?
I think, like, I imagine being you at that time, or anyone, right? Like, you kind of, obviously it's a lot, but then you probably feel like special. But then for me now, looking back, you were so young, not only kind of like spiritually in the organization, but as a person.
Yeah.
And then knowing the trajectory of what happens, I'm like, oh no, they totally groomed you. Like, they saw your zeal. You got baptized after just 2 weeks. You're willing to give up all this stuff. So you say, like, you're not being dissuaded by your displeased mom, and you're faithful even though nobody came to your baptism. Let's get our claws into this one, guys.
Yeah,
Oh, that's so sad.
it is. And it is really like, now after I I was part of a ICOC for 28 years. So now, as a woman of 24/7 years, and today is a very special day, and I'm so happy we got to do this today, because exactly today it's my first anniversary of being out of the ICOC.
Yay! Woo, 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 woo. Thanks for spending that with us and with me.
I know. Oh my goodness,
What
yes.
a
So
big, like, 1 year stamp for you.
it is amazing. Yeah, I'm so happy I can celebrate that with you, Nikita, in this space. So, yeah, it was grooming. I never saw that. I didn't have those words, let alone at 18. And I felt many things. First of all, I felt like, we used to be a really huge group of, a really huge group of students, college students in Mexico City. I don't want to exaggerate, but probably we were around 600 college students. It was huge. It was out of everything. And the day I got baptized, we were 10, and that was so normal. Every week, 10, 12, 8 every week in just one region. We had like at least, from what I can remember, there were at least 4 regions just of college students. Regions. I know it was
It's like a
so.
college church.
Yeah, basically. So imagine all the wisdom, imagine all the care,
That there
imagine
wasn't.
all the consideration, education, how ready we were for, gaining the world for Christ,
Well, yeah,
right?
lots of zeal.
A lot of zeal. And, even when I moved to serve teens, I was just 2 years older than them, like, and we were leading these teens. And, anyways, so the thing is that I started this Deborah's group, and it was so clear, like, the women's leader of the entire Mexico City church. Another layer to that, she was, yeah, she was a citizen of the United States, a white skinny woman.
Of course.
um, and that also has to do, Nikita, with another layer. This layer of, you know, being colonized and not knowing that you're also dealing with generational trauma, right?
Uh, uh,
And how you believe that culturally, Nikita, and I know this is hard to say, and I know that most people will never even consider this, but culturally, we were groomed to believe that Americans, especially white Americans, they always know better. Always. And that is an aspirational thing. Not only the whiteness, which is obviously an aspirational thing, but also how they live, how they think, how ahead they are from us. So this woman was telling me that I was like, that I had so much potential just after 2 months of being baptized. There were women, part of the group, who were like for years, who've been members of the ICOC for years. They were already leading sectors. They were already doing great stuff. I was just I was just baptized 2 months ago. So of course she was like, okay, now if you're here and you don't lead anything, you have only a month to start leading. You haven't baptized anyone, you need to find someone to study the Bible and baptize her as soon as possible. But the heaviest thing that I felt was because I remember how she was like really, really clear about, you know, being here, it is not only a privilege, but it is such a big responsibility. And one of her classes was about how people that I needed to share my faith every time, everywhere, at all times possible, because one day, oh my God, she said to us, one day when Jesus is here again, and you'll see how all those people will go directly to hell, they will look at you. They will look at you and say, why you never invited me? Why? What, you didn't do anything. And it is going to be your responsibility that they went to hell. So don't miss any opportunity. No opportunity can be missed. And with that, where my heart went directly was with my parents and my sister. Like, they need to be, they have to be, they need to be disciples, right? And I
of
felt,
course.
and I felt, Nikita, like, oh my goodness. So during that time, this was also like so intense, because during that time that we were in this specific training group, My dad got baptized, and then my mom, in just a couple of weeks, uh, they became members of the ICOC. And then I felt a heavier responsibility because I remember reading one of these this scripture one of these days that says, "The ones who are given the most will be asked the most." I don't know how to say it. I just know by memory the scripture, but in Spanish, like Jesus saying, "The ones that are giving the most are gonna be asked the most," something like that.
Oh,
So
is it the like to whom much is given, much is required?
yes, so that's how I felt, Nikita. The moment my parents got baptized, I felt God can ask me anything. My parents are members of the ICOC. I cannot pay, I will never be able to pay back God for this wonderful, miracle. And my sister started, going to the kingdom kids at 10 years old. Thanks to thanks to me. No thanks. Because they were members, and my sister was 10 years old. So suddenly my entire family was attending the ICOC. Did I make sense?
Wow. Yeah, you made a lot of sense. Sorry, I just want to
Yeah.
do a check on my audio. You guys, it's kind of another thing that is unfortunately our brand, that there's always tech issues. So I'm texting a friend, Kat. Kat, how do I sound?
Yeah.
Like you're
So,
in a metal room. Okay. What if I set it down? How is it now? If it's not so close. These are new mics too, guys. So I'm trying to figure out, like, if it's too close, I know I get when I watch content back, it sounds like distorted. Still a bit weird, but not terrible.
yeah.
Gosh darn it. I just want to create a good video experience for you guys. And then I watched some of the video back from yesterday in my computer. I guess my computer is kind of old. So the speakers, like, it's fine, but it's not clear, like, okay, she said it's good now. Oh, I guess because it's sitting down, it's away from me. Okay. All right. Sorry, Tanya.
No, that's fine.
Um, so everybody's now in the IC. They got back the ICOC. They got baptized. You're being trained. You're being colonized. You're being groomed. So how did it feel for you though when you actually became a leader and you started being like staff and doing the traveling and the leading and the shepherding and getting more like specific training? What was that like for you? Like the highs, the lows, that's weird, or was it just all great? Like, oh my God, I love what I'm doing for God. Like, what was kind of your, maybe the first couple of years, your experience and your perception of being a leader, like an official leader in the church?
Yeah. So, I think telling you about this story of how my entire family became members, well, except for my young sister, how that felt. I'm absolutely in depth. Like I will do anything for God, and I don't think that's it's huge, right? Because in this specific context, it's not I will do anything for God. It's I will do anything for the ICOC, anything. So, starting with teens, again, it was such a young crowd. The leaders of these campus students regions, where everyone was young, everyone was full with zeal. We will just give every ounce of time. So that was normal. Even if you were, I mean, it didn't matter if you were not paid. So for specifically for teens, like who was supervising us? No one. I will just leave home because in Mexico you don't leave your house to live in the campus. You just commute. So I will commute every day at 5 a.m. to 5:30 a.m. to get to my first class at 7 a.m. And then from finishing around 1 or 2 p.m., I will just take the bus and travel the city to another like extreme of the city to shepherd my ministry of teens, and nobody will be there. We'll be just working, 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 having Bible talks the entire afternoon. I will get to my house the earliest 9 p.m., 10 p.m. Like, and my salary was almost nothing. Like I had to decide. I know. Absolute exploitation. Absolute exploitation. I sometimes the girls from my team ministry, they would know that I didn't have money to eat. They would bring me food from their homes. So when they see me, they will bring me, I brought you something, I brought you this, I brought you that, because they knew I didn't have enough. I will spend my money for transportation. I will spend my money for copies at college, and yeah, so that was, but again, it truly felt that I was doing it for God.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
And this is a term that I've become familiar with maybe over the last 8 months or so, but that's labor trafficking.
Oh,
That's labor trafficking. We did a whole, I can't remember which video it was on. If I can remember, I'll try to like do one of those things where the link comes down from the top. Um, but yeah, where employers or these organizations, they just exploit you like that. You're doing all of this. You're doing all of this. You're isolated, and the salary was no way near enough. So I just wanted to say that, give it a term.
yeah.
Um, because people, kind of like you said earlier, like when you give words to things, like, no, it's not just weird, it's not just unhealthy. That's one thing that a lot of high control groups and toxic environments will say, like, well, we're just family, we're just doing the best we can, nobody's perfect. It's like, no, nobody's perfect, but not everybody's abusive. I think Erin Cuff said that in our
Hmm.
video we did. She's degreed in psychology, and she came on to talk about recovering from spiritual abuse, to give it a name, because we are just so conditioned, like, oh, well, you just got to have grace, and it's really just a license to continue to be abused, manipulated, and exploited. So anyway, that's one of the vocab words for today is labor trafficking.
For
Sorry,
sure.
go on.
No, for sure. Labor trafficking and exploitation. But I felt, I was what? By that time, I was probably 19. So still in college. My mom was so worried, Nikita. She was like, I don't know if you eat. And she was right. Sometimes I wouldn't even eat. And sometimes especially when exams came from school, I would fell asleep writing a paper, uh, preparing for an exam, etc. So yeah, but I felt so much love for my teens. Like I was so happy to spend time with them. I was so happy to study the Bible with them. I've never ever thought, and this is so important. This is very important because unlike many teen ministries that I've known, these teens were the first ones in their family becoming a member of the ICOC. So that's a very different dynamic. None of their parents were members. It was them. So we did all kinds of things. Totally grooming. We did all kinds of things. We went visiting we introduced ourselves to the parents. We asked permission for them to get baptized. And yeah, and so that was like the part that I really enjoyed was being with them, talking with them, being a good friend for them. Then eventually the opportunity to go on a mission became, and that part was when I went to Cuba. One of my best friends became a missionary. The first mission that was sent by Mexico was sent to Honduras. So that was the very first mission team that was sent by this specific church. And she went in that, she was part of that mission team to Honduras. She came back. I didn't know her at the time, but when she came back, she started discipling me, and she told me about the mission. She was um obviously super happy and amazed, and those stories of the first year in Honduras they were 100, and the second year they were 200. And so I was like, I want that. I can't wait. And I knew in my heart, I knew I want to be a missionary to Cuba. And I ended up going. It was supposed to be 1 year. This is another proof of grooming, Nikita. When I asked to be part of the mission team, I still needed to finish 1 semester. I had 1 semester left to finish my degree. I studied international relations. 1 semester. And I didn't care about leaving everything behind. I left without finishing my degree. And there were not even one adult, not even one, who was like, what's the problem with waiting 1 semester? Like, Tania, there's no need. Hey, okay, you can go, but just finish your career. Right? No one. And there were some adults, in charge. I was 21 by then when I went to the mission, but no one said anything. And it had to be one of them because I would never hear my mom, you know. By that time, my mom was not a member of the ICOC, not my dad. They were not members of the ICOC anymore by that year when I was 21, leaving for Cuba, and I wouldn't listen to them. But no leader was like, no, hey, it's just 1 semester. Finish. Because it's important for you. It is important for your future. It is important for your own career. And I left, and it felt so good. It felt so good because it felt like, see, eventually Jesus asked me to leave my school, and I did it. I did it. I left everything, my family, my friends, my school. And it was supposed to be 1 year, and I stayed almost 4. And I just think that I worked so hard, Nikita, because when we placed foot in La Habana, I believe with all my heart, and I've asked for, I've already apologized a good number of times to the people in Cuba and to the people in Aguascalientes, the other place we went as missionaries. But I completely, absolutely believed. I was 21 again, and I was sure the day we set foot on La Habana, if Jesus would come back that day, only the 6 of us and the mission team, only us would go with Jesus. 11 millions of Cubans, which was the entire population of the country, they will not.
And I'm so grateful you said that because, again, that's another one, Tanya, and especially being at the top, that leaders and the pillar people love to say, no, we don't believe we're the only church.
Mm.
No, we don't say you can't date anyone out of the church. And you did go back and clarify, and you're like, no, that's not exactly what they said. They said you just have to date a disciple. But even when you retell the story, the way you remember it, the messaging you receive, the way it was lived out, the questions that were asked, it does lead members to believe, no, I can only date in this church. And then two, yeah, we are the only church. Like you said, for me to get to Cuba, an entire population, and think only the 6 of us on this mission team from the ICOC will truly go to heaven whether or not that's what the more trained and polished responses are, the way that messages are preached and people are discipled and scriptures are explained, that is what we believe. That,
Yeah,
well, when you're in that group, not us
yeah,
anymore, but when you're in that group, that's honestly what you believe, and that's why you're so passionate about going to these mission fields. And then you remember what the skinny white lady told you, like, you better talk to every single person, because if they don't make it into heaven, it's going to be your fault. Didn't you see me at that store? You could have shared with me. Now look at me, I'm suffering for eternity. And that's a lot of weight to have on anyone, especially an impressionable young person such as yourself.
yeah, yeah. So I totally felt that I worked so hard. I fasted, I walked, I worked tirelessly, like hours and hours and hours. I love being there. I love living, even though I had to live with, I can't remember how much I was paid. I was paid $300 a month to live in a country that it was twice yeah, it was twice, it was two times more expensive than Mexico. So at that time, this is to put in perspective. At that in those years, Mexican peso was 10 Mexican pesos was $1, 1 to 10. Uh, Cuban peso was 24 peso for $1. So twice it was the double of expensive. And I was paid $300 a month.
And
And
you are struggling.
I mean, yes, and at the same time, again, and I think that's how great they were at finding someone who would give anything and do anything for the ICOC, because I would never complain about it ever. Like, I am a missionary, I'm receiving a salary, I'm privileged, right? Like, I mean, Paul says that he had the pride of saying, "No one's paying me for this." So I have to work hard. I had to work so hard. Nobody needs to ask me to it. I was convinced myself. And I didn't receive any how do you say that? Like, raise. Yeah. I never received a raise in those almost 4 years. And I had permission once a year to go to Mexico City for 1 week, 10 days top. Apart from that, no vacation. Just 8 to 10 days a year. And I had to save for the entire year to pay my flight to go to Mexico and visit my family.
That's terrible. That is labor trafficking. That's one, again, that's one of the things that they say. Like, if you're isolated from people, you're taken away with no real way to get back. Like, and what's crazy, again, the ways we allow them to treat us, because yes, you're very young, but you're a whole adult, almost with almost a completed degree, only a completed degree, only not completed because
Yeah.
these crazies, no one told you should stay, and they're telling you when you can't, like, wow, just wow.
And my mom, who was not a member of the ICOC at that time, she will never ask me. She was so now, after all those years, I feel like what would I do if this was my child? And my mom was so, like, she had very clear, now that I can think about it, she passed, and my dad passed already too. But I can imagine now that she knew, no matter what I say, I won't be able to change her mind. So she will just make sure that I have food. So these are the things my mom from Mexico City would find a way, someone to bring me stuff, clothes, uh, you know, candies from Mexico, like things to, and find a way to help me from where she was without asking me for anything. So there was a really hard time, and it felt really weird at some point when, very close to my coming back to Mexico, I started feeling like, it's been almost 4 years, I think. And about talking about training, Nikita, no training. Like, what official? Never, I never had official training. It was just about just go and do. Like, the disciples were unschooled, right? They were just fishermen. They just have so much faith and follow Jesus. And you have the Bible, you have everything. So, formal training, and that's convenient too. Why would they want you to be educated? Why would they want you to have some form of theology studies, which anyone else would think? If I want to work after leaving the ICOC, if I want to go and find a job at another, religious institution, what are they gonna ask me? Like, minimum. I mean, serious religious institution. They would ask for at least a degree in theology, right? Well, that was not needed, of course. So at some point, I feel like, it's been almost 4 years. I think I need to come back. I even at some point being in Cuba, I started like, I think I really need to close this loop of not finishing my degree. So I asked for permission, oh sorry, advice to finish my degree while being in Cuba. Like, meaning dedicating time, not for the mission and for me, which was seen as sinful. And I said, I think I really need to do this because I don't know what's next, and it would be a good idea to finish my degree. And I asked for permission to start my social service. I started working for the embassy of Mexico in La Habana. It was amazing. I mean, that door was open, and I started working there for part time and for the embassy. And then at some point, someone in Mexico, in the leadership, someone in Mexico considered, why are you working at the embassy? You were not sent, and that was what I was told. You were sent to be a missionary. Why are you working at the embassy of Mexico? And I don't know if it's the same here, Nikita, but working for the an embassy or the diplomat world, it's the gold dream for the internationalists. The people who study international relations, that's their gold dream. Uh, so I was told, no, you need to resign. You are there to be a missionary. And by that time, I was working directly with the consul, with the not the ambassador, but I don't know the name in English. Anyways, the director of the consulate. I was working directly with her. And when I told them, obviously I obeyed. Obviously I obeyed. Right? Like, why would I have questioned that at all? At all? Why? Anyways, I just went directly to the ambassador and told him, hey, I'm so sorry. I need to, I'm gonna head into another direction. The ambassador acted super professionally and said, well, I'm sure that you have a great opportunity. We can be more happy for you. Please, if you need a letter of recommendation, whatever you need, blah, blah, blah. We're so happy to have you. It's so sad. Anyways, but one of the ministers there at the embassy called me to his office and said to me, Tania, I just want to look you in the eye. I just want to make sure that you know what you're doing. I want to look in your eyes and know that you really have a better thing than this, because your career uh, uh, in this branch of the government is just starting. You're here in La Habana, but then you will be sent to another country. Like, this is just the start of your career. I just want to make sure that you're changing this for something great. And what did I say, Nikita? It's not hard to imagine.
Of course I am. Like, I'm sure you were so sure, and what greater cause is there than the kingdom and God? It's the best thing.
Yeah. Like, I I just told them thank you. Like, I know I appreciate your concern. You wanted me to be in a really good place for taking a decision like this. And but of course I have something better. I could not be happier. And the funny part is that I never knew who said that, who sent that word from Mexico City. Someone who might like didn't even know me, just some big leader in Mexico City sent that word. I was never sure, and I felt like, yeah, this is great. I'm working for God. Yes, it's okay. It's another chance to sacrifice something great because God has already done the best. Like anything for me. So what's this? And I'm not gonna save anyone working for an embassy. and and yeah, I just quit my job there. And then a couple of months later, I told the leader, the women's leader, um, hey, I think it's time for me to go back to Mexico. I think it's time for me to finish my career. And I don't know why, but I feel like my mom might be having a hard time and she's not going to tell me anything. And the response from Mexico City's leaders was, and this specific women's leader, she wanted to talk to me on the phone when she knew that I wanted to come back. And she was enraged. She was like, "You're not a disciple. You're a coward. Why are you coming back in this very hard moment? And no one never asked to come back from the mission." Like, she basically shamed me and said that she could hardly believe that I was a disciple by asking to come back when the leader there in Cuba needed me so much.
Can we
And
just talk about the fact that that's probably even a lie, ma'am? No one has ever asked to come back up from a mission field.
exactly, exactly. But the thing is that she had this specific leader, women's leader, was the one discipling the mission. So of course she visited Cuba a couple of times, but she would visit just to take the leaders to the best beach, Varadero there in Cuba, to spend time in a hotel and, disciple them and help them. She would never know what it was to live in Cuba, where people at the time were making, Cuba has probably never been a great resource of, obviously, of money, because at the time I was there, the people who get the biggest, salary was $20 a month, and these were doctors. Anyways, so yeah, the saddest thing about this was that I started crying when she started telling me, bullying me about me not being a disciple.
Because
I
it is
felt like,
bullying. It is bullying.
yeah, when she was bullying me, I just started crying and felt like, is this how God feels about me? Oh my goodness, these grown up women bullying me after 4 years of $300 a month salary, after asking me to, do so many different things. Um, she, something in me was like, is this God? Is this how God is feeling about me? And I beg her, hey, you know what? I changed my mind. I won't leave. I will stay. And then she changed. She then started making fun of me. She said, well, no, you're coming back. Right away when we finish talking, ask blah, blah, blah to buy your ticket to come back to Mexico. And just to give some time to people to, say goodbye, and a little, goodbye party or something, but you're coming back. And now you can take care of your things and you can have for your life and you can have to go to your mama. She was horrible.
That's horrible. Like she yells at you, tells you how if you come back, you're not even a disciple. So then you say, okay, I'll stay. You're right. I see the light or whatever. And then she's like, never mind. Come on. So then it's like she makes you believe that you will be this failure if you come back, which first of all is not true. And then she makes you come back. So you have, even though you're not a failure and that is the better choice, she makes you like you're going to feel ashamed. You're going to feel humiliated to show your face. Like everyone knows how weak you are.
Yeah.
But then what's crazy, again, on the other end, knowing the mastermind is, I wonder if hearing you so sad, somewhere she realizes, ooh, this isn't going to sound good if I tell a young woman she can't come back to see her sick mom. So now she gets to say, I told her to come back. I told her to come back and take care of her family, but she gets to leave out the part where she completely bulldozed you and insulted you and berated you.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that was really, really twisted. Pretty terrible. But anyways, I got to came back. Obviously, I didn't like the only people there at the airport to pick me up and receive me was my mom and my sister, and and I was back, no job, no degree because I didn't finish. You know, I needed to come back and finish, um, and yeah. But again, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna find a region to attend. I asked my mom if I was she was open to receive me at her home, and obviously she received me. She fed me. She gave me money to go out and find a job. It took me 6 months to find a job, and when I went to see, to do interviews, some of the recruiters were like, "What have you done in 4 years?" Like people your age, and I was like, "What, 25?" People your age have already finished the masters, or like why what did you do? And I had like, how would I explain that I went to Cuba for 4 years to save souls from eternity in hell?
And
Like,
it's like that happens a lot in staff. And even people like myself and Asha who do similar things but never get chosen to be actually paid.
mhm,
And it's like there's this ICOC church bubble ecosystem, and inside of it, you feel important, you feel elite, you feel experienced,
yeah,
you feel, but again, because you said there's no training, but you're doing you have all of this stuff, and you kind of feel like they're little badges of honor. And it's not until you have to either socialize with people outside of the bubble, or like you said, it's time to go get a real job, and you're like, oh my God, this means nothing. What do I have to show? Like I finished my degree, but I changed it from, I could have had my master's in business administration in 5 years. I was on the track for that program. And
mhm,
because that program was, it was not too demanding for me personally, but the schedule, like I would have had to go to lots of networking events. I would have had to go to lots of like, I would have had to do a couple of secular internships at these different business institutions or
mhm,
whatever. Like all these things put together by the university to make sure that their students are equipped and set up for success. But of course, similar to you, now that I'm a disciple, this takes away from the mission. This takes away from time. I could be saving souls, which is the most important thing. And so
mhm,
it's not until I graduate college and I do like a 1-year challenge. It was like a local kind of missions thing,
yeah,
where I'm not getting paid, but I'm doing basically all of the things that a paid staff person would do while also waiting tables, and
mm,
enduring these berating discipling sessions, being told how my ministry is not growing because my lack of faith. Um, and then to not get chosen to go into full-time paid staff, which now I know was actually a blessing. But I'm trying to apply for jobs.
Hmm.
I can't put Bible Talk Leader on there. Like, you don't realize, like, "Oh my gosh, I gave this all up," and then you just try to convince yourself, "My treasure's in heaven. Anyone who gives up houses or mother or brother will not fail to receive 100 times more." Like, "Okay, God, I gave up everything. When are you gonna make good on your side of the bargain?" And that's kind of what you have to do to comfort yourself, because in a very real way, like you said, you're in these interviews and they're like, "What have you been doing?"
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I was reading here like this poor planning of the ICOC could have reached some big ballers and the embassy. Definitely, like I was surrounded by diplomats and owners of businesses, people who actually have money in Cuba, even though when they're not supposed to, etc. Even ministers from Cuba's government, etc. So that's so funny because I totally believed I am there to reach out. What else I was gonna do? To reach out and bring these super sharp people, right? Anyways, so yeah, then
Well,
when yeah,
oh, sorry. I didn't wanna cut you off. What were you about to say?
yeah, I was so I was trying to remember where I was going. So, well, I came back, I finally found a job, and then that was around the time where the famous Henry Creed letter came out. So, the thing is that it never really did an impact in Mexico City, at least not in entire Mexico. First of all, because no one ever that I know ever translated to Spanish. Um, so that's again, like it was very convenient. Um, and I've known to this day, and again, I've been part of the staff for at least 20 years. And after 20 years in the ministry and knowing a good number of people in the ministry, even with that, I can count with less than one hand the number of people that actually read Henry Creed's letter. Most of the staff would never even dare. I mean, most of them because they don't know English, uh, even though they've been taking English classes for since forever. Uh,
That's like
yeah, no,
shots fired.
that's
Okay,
really.
keep going.
The super leaders in Mexico, they've been taking English forever and they don't know how to speak English, most of them. So, anyways, at that time of life, in that time of life, I read the entire letter. It took me a while. It is not short. It is not easy. And I was already working. I had a job at that moment, and it really felt like, oh my God, what is this? What did I do? What did I thought? What did I thought to people in Cuba? Uh, and I felt so guilty. And I went into a spiral. I felt like, why did I really go there? Like, was it
So was
because
this
it
back
felt
in
good?
2003?
Say it again?
This was back in 2003 when the letter first came out?
Yes.
And so you started spiraling all the way back then, even though you didn't leave till, like, last year?
Yeah. And
Okay.
I was almost I was so close to leave the ICOC in 2003. I was so close. I was not able to. No.
Why do
Anyways.
you think you stayed? I mean,
Oh,
we know lots of reasons, but for you personally, why do you think you stayed even though the letter was so, I mean, it's it's all the same stuff still going on now, but yeah.
same thing. I mean, when I read the letter, and certainly some stuff were like, well, we never had that much money. I mean, because even though I was part of the staff, I was always, I tell my husband, like, we were always like the people staff, like we were never really like super high in the ranks. We were never appointed. My husband, for example, was never appointed evangelist in Mexico. Or me, we were never appointed anything. We were just like the ones who will go. After that we even went to a mission together to plant a branch. After the letter, I mean, I will explain. I will go back a little. So I read the letter. I feel so guilty. I feel like, what are we going to recognize? What are we going to change? And now the leader of the Mexico ICOC, it's another couple. They're Mexicans, and I was like, probably, at this very moment, I'm just working my regular job. I'm dating my husband, and we are, working in our careers, and we are leading, though. Of course we are leading, like, we were leading without being paid. We were leading like around 100 singles, so working without pay. And I told him, well, if I bring my concerns to my region leader, he will listen, because we're one of their leaders. And he, obviously, he didn't. And I ended up feeling like, we're not going to change anything, we're not going to recognize anything. The least people could hear or know about this letter, about what is happening. By that time, I found reveal.org. I found people like who were trying to expose more things, who were been trying to do it before. Internet 2003. It was not that easy, but it was possible. So I even have a good number of conversations with ex-members that I contacted online, and I was ready. Like, I told my husband, I will stop leading. No one is, like, it seems like nothing is going to be done. I'm going to quit leading. So I want you to know, right? I'm going to stop leading this group of singles with you. I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm leaving, and I know what that means. So we won't be able to continue dating. The moment I leave, we won't be able to continue dating. We know the rules, of course. So he was like, okay, what I care the most is about you. Obviously, a region leader don't have any answers, like, for the questions you have. Why don't you get time with the leader, the lead evangelist of the Mexico church? Talk to him. He was visiting a region one of those nights. I wrote him a letter. I wished I had a copy. I saved a copy for me. I didn't. I wrote him a letter. I asked him for a time to talk. Incredibly, because is not very used to, like, a male leader will give you time to talk. Incredibly enough, he agreed. He asked me to come to his place. The wife was there in the house, obviously. My husband brought me. That was our date that day, bringing me to his house. And and I had a good conversation. What I thought it was a good conversation. I told him, the first thing I remember I told him is, how can you sleep at night? How can you sleep at night? I can't. And it was just a small group in La Habana. It was 50 people that we ended up, proselytizing at the time. And how do you do it? What are we going to do? I've been trying to bring this to a conversation, and I know there are things that are not related to us, but most of them, the most important, are. How are we continue telling people that we are the only ones? And he would say to me things like, yeah, I don't sleep neither. It's been very hard. I've been trying to make some changes, but as not talking about my region leader, but talking about him, there's people who doesn't want to change anything. And I need to work with everyone. So Tania, obviously, before going with him, I prayed and fasted for an entire week before getting together with him. I was like, if you're there, because I got to this point, Nikita, I was not only questioning why I became a Christian, why I became a missionary. I was like, I don't even know if I truly believe in God.
Mm,
Probably I just made this all up.
yeah.
So I was like, okay. This time is going to be my answer. And he said to me, Tania, we need people that will champion the change. I know.
It's the same script. It's the same script. Copy paste, country to country, year after year. Is Asha and I were just saying this on the video yesterday. Oh, you have an issue. You have so much fire. Why don't you be part of it?
We need you. We need your strength. We need your passion. You imagine all the change you're gonna make that now, because by that time I've already left the leadership with my husband, my boyfriend at the time. He was leading with another sister. And I was just a member of the Bible Talk of the region leaders. I was in the hospital, spiritual hospital, because that was super bad, like in a bad, terrible spiritual moment. Uh, and he said, look, what you did, Tania, was not wise. You would be able to influence more people for change, being a sector leader. That was what we were leading, singles, a sector of singles. So you wouldn't be able to influence and help and push the change. Now you're gonna need to do it just from being this, a member of the Bible Talk that I was at the moment, because that's what I asked. And I felt that made sense. I felt that. And he said to me, well, and you just don't leave your family.
The family thing
Family.
again. The families, they love, it's like one of their like big cards that they pull, like bring out the big guns. Like
Yeah,
let's pull
I
on their
know.
heartstrings for
I
family.
know. I know. And as Ash is mentioning too, like, I stayed 20 more years believing if I have influence, I will use it for the best. Whatever influence I have, you know, it will be served to push change, to repent, to help more people, to be the church that God wants us to be. I stayed. I said, okay, I think I should have, stayed in leadership with my boyfriend, but I will do my best. So after that crisis, after that crisis, and being just a member of a Bible Talk, I came from there to be a leader of a mission team with my boyfriend. 6 months after, because I truly believed, yes, I want to be part of the change. What if we go to a different city and we do different things, right? And I quit my job in the government in Mexico, a really good job. My husband quit his job, and we went together with a mission team of 6 singles to plant a branch of the ICOC in another city in Mexico. So,
Wait a minute. So you
yeah,
went on another mission team.
yeah. Now, this time, we were leading it. My husband and I, we were dating. We were leading that mission team now, because, again, I was like, I'm staying and I'm going to make a difference.
Okay, so I think that's a really good segue.
Mm.
I think that's a really, really good segue because you stayed to be able to make a difference. And just for the sake of time, not that we have to be short, but I just know because I don't think I did a great job introing mine and Tasha's Tasha, Lord, mine and Tanya's split, mine and Tanya's friendship that we developed. So I like I just know there's so much meat and juice
I
coming
know.
later, and I kind of want to like fast forward to that portion where it really
Yeah.
crumbles down, and I think that's a really really good like tying thread. So
Yeah.
you say you have this thought of like, now I'm going to drive change. And so all this stuff in the middle, maybe another day we'll have to come back. And like, if
Yep.
any of you guys are interested in more of Tanya's lore, we could talk about all these years we skipped over because I just know it's
Yeah.
so rich. But like, you end up in the States, in Boston. You could talk about how you got there, but let's talk about like what you and your husband did in Boston, where you were placed, and then like I guess just the story, what actually then began to happen when you did what you were told you could do as a leader, when you tried
Yeah,
to
yeah,
bring
sure.
change.
This is a very very perfect moment to connect these dots. So fast forward, we ended up in Boston. I love Juicy. Me too. We ended up in Boston. We were hired to serve to work with the Spanish speaking ministry in Boston. It was at the beginning. It was the huge region of almost 350 people, and then eventually a couple of years after, I'd say a couple of years after, it became two regions. My husband is being appointed an evangelist, and I was given this ridiculous title of women's leader. Like, I mean, we're supposed to be following the Bible word in the Bible is that, but we need to give something to the wife, right? So yeah, we were appointed evangelist and women's leader, and we started leading this region, south part of Boston. And I'd say it was a really great time serving people, trying to make a difference, trying to make space, trying to have conversations. And the good thing is that I think, from my perspective, that we were able to open space to have, you know, uh, safe space, the most possible, to the best of our abilities, trying to, when all those ask for more money, when all those ask for more evangelism or more whatever, we will just talk with people in a different way, or at least trying to consider, hey, this is what's been asked, but we know that you have these needs. You know that you have three jobs. We know that you are an undocumented people in Boston, so don't worry. If we need, if it's true that God will provide, God will provide with what we need. So, and the good part, Nikita, is that we were able to do a, a more friendly space inside, because being a Spanish ministry, uh, you are not seen really.
And
So,
that's something I know you and I had an offline conversation about. And I'm hoping if this, if Tanya would like to, she is totally welcome to come back. I know Asha and I, and even a friend Erica, we did an episode about what it's like being Black in the
mm,
church and the ICOC. I'm so interested in hearing about the Spanish speaking ministries in the States, because I've observed that. And I'm not sure how much I've talked about it here. I know I definitely have in some of like my TikTok and Instagram content, just about my dad being Dominican. And so even though kind of in my English speaking privilege,
mm,
that I can acknowledge it didn't affect me, but I did notice, and it did prick me sometimes when I would see how it didn't, the Spanish speaking ministry, I felt never got the attention it always seemed kind of piecemeal. There's like this phrase that it's like, oh, it's being held together by paper clips and chewing gum. Like, at least in the state and the region that I was in, it just always seemed last minute. And so I know this is a little bit of a detour, but it made me think of that when you said that I really want to be able to allow a an episode where we just talk about that. And that's because of that. That is why I wanted Tanya's introduction to this channel to be completely in Spanish,
mm,
because
mhm.
that demographic of people in this organization is so overlooked and treated like second, third rate members. And since this is a tiny space that I can control, I was like, no, these people, this demographic, they're going to get the respect they deserve.
Yep.
Someone that they know in this space, I want them to be able to hear this story in their native tongue. Like, I'm just
Yeah.
very passionate about that. So
Mhm.
anyway, cut you off, but I just did want to interject that.
Yeah,
That's a whole thing that the way Spanish speaking ministries happen here.
yeah. So yeah, definitely juice for another life one of these days. The thing is that eventually I realized that, like, we have certain freedom because they won't know what we really are talking about. And we get
New
to
rebel.
choose how to treat our people, how to filter, the demands from the top in the Boston leadership. And we had we even gained a fame, like the South region in Spanish from the North region, like the South with the Alberto and Tania, they are hippies, progressive, lack of they lack of convictions, and they're too, like, so that was her fame eventually. And the North is the strong spiritually, the one with convictions, the one there. At the latest I heard, it was like, yeah, they, like Alberto and Tania gave the a very watered version of Christianity, which was not Christianity at all. And people would say things like they took too long to realize what Alberto and Tania were doing, and they were surprised that we were not let go before. Anyways, because we ended up being people who taught, apparently, false doctrines, and we were false teachers. Anyways, so going in time, going ahead in time, December 31st, 2023 came, right? No, 22. It was 22. So January 1st of 2023, it's a Sunday, we receive an email from the lead evangelist of the ICOC in Boston. And we had a little service of prayer with a small group because, it's January 1st. So whoever wanted to come and pray, we were there to pray together, to start together in prayer. And after that, we received this email from him. And it was about Rolling Stone article, and how these women, were suing the ICOC. But this evangelist emailed to the entire staff and elders in Boston, was so full of red flags all over, Nikita, all over.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. I know I had it for your episode. Keep chatting. If I find it, I'm gonna put it up on the screen.
So he started his email with, well, it's just this poor written article, who talks about people who suffer awful things, apparently, but it seems like she doesn't know anything about us. She doesn't know that this, like, she's talking about Kip McKean's church and things, but not us. She doesn't know. And this is, all these people who's trying to trash the church, and and this is basically, and the hardest, like the biggest red flag I just got to see in that email from him was, and this is just, the devil wanting to distract us because we're going to do great things in 2023. All this grandiosity, all this, out of touch. And I felt like, just by reading, need some palomitas, just by reading that email, I just knew, whatever it is, because I didn't have an idea. I was just reading the email first. We're not going to handle it well. We're not going to handle it correctly. And I immediately went to try to find the lawsuits, not only the article, but the lawsuits. And I couldn't stop crying while reading to the lawsuits, especially because the first two I got to read were about women descendant of, Latin American people, probably Spanish speaking people, vulnerable people, women, and whose last names are related to my community. And then I the other thing I remember immediately was, okay, uh, in the past years, couple of years, can't remember exactly, before, two different sisters from my region at the time, the region I used to lead, confided in me to tell me that 12, 13 years ago, um, their children were abused. And the description, oh, it's here. So, do you want to read a little of it,
I think
Nikita?
I took the names out.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the names. Thank you. So, in the
Okay.
meantime, I finish this. So, I think the hardest part was to realize the similarities of the situations I was reading, of the cases I was reading in the lawsuits, and these two specific situations that I was told by two women in my ministry whose girls, whose underage girls went through in Boston, all the way, like, from east to coast, right? Is that how you say it? Like from one place of a country to another,
Yeah, coast to coast.
coast to coast, like so similar. Again, same things they were told. And I was horrified. And I was like, this had happened in Boston almost at the same time. Some of them were 20 years ago, 15 years ago, some similarities there.
Well,
In
can
a,
we
Mhm.
let's pause and read it real quick just so
Yeah, please.
people can know like why you were so disgusted to know that this happened, but then how he explained it away.
Yeah.
Um, so and this is the new year. He addresses it. Boston region leaders, elders, and wives, happy new year. Well, as you may have already seen, the clock had barely struck midnight in the new year before an article was released in the magazine Rolling Stone about the ICC, KIP, and our church history. It is a poorly written article. That's funny. I know you and your sister had some good laughs. And the last one, like, it's Rolling Stone, so you're going to call it a poorly written article. Okay. Um, it's a poorly written article that seems to be mostly directed at Kip and his church in LA, and the writer seems to have very little awareness of the difference between his church and ours, and how he split away from us, and all the reasons why. The article never mentions our church by name. It is a sad article about people who have apparently been through some very difficult experiences in different restoration churches. The bad experiences were of a sexually abusive nature and were described fairly graphically in the article. This is obviously heartbreaking, and we should handle all conversations about it very compassionately. Some leaders and I, he listed people, I just changed it to some leaders. Some leaders and I have all been in communication. Our feeling at this point is to do and say nothing publicly about the article. The feeling is that this would only pour gasoline on the fire, if there even is a fire.
Hmm.
At this point, there are what appears to be fall away disciples who are picking up this moment to send the article around on different social media sites and to trash the church as they do it. Our comms team is on top of it and is carefully deleting any comments on our regional social media pages that are inappropriate. It seems that the biggest danger would, and this is bold in red. It seems that the biggest danger would be young Christians or hurting Christians in our region who see the stuff and don't, the stuff, how irreverent, who see the stuff and don't know what it means. Our history, the biblical concepts of persecution, and the way Satan attacks us. We would encourage you and your leadership team to discuss and figure out the best way to address those needs within your regions. Let's be praying. I believe that Satan knows that God is about to do something powerful among us, and he wants us discouraged and distracted. Let's be neither, but let's be shrewd as we deal with Satan's attacks, and let's be compassionate as we deal with the people. Love you all. Happy New Year, and see you soon.
I know. Yeah. So you can imagine probably how horrified I was while reading this, even though I haven't read the the lawsuits yet at this very moment, just by knowing friends of mine, like not only members of the region I used to lead, it's friends of mine went through this. I want you to know, like, one of them was lied when she came to the then region leader, the women region leader, and told her what happened to her daughter. She was told, "Oh, I will, I will report it," and she never did. So the level of abuse, the level of violence, spiritual abuse, religious abuse done to them, my friend and her husband, to make them believe that they were going to do it, that that was right. And then when they got to sit together and talk, they were told, it's better to forgive. This is going to be used against the church, the enemy. So these ministry staff, basically, they not only like abused them, but they basically committed a how do you say that, a crime by not reporting, because we were supposed to be mandated reporters. Like, none of this exists in Mexico. This is all new for me. I don't even know. That's kind of like, listen, this is Boston. This is the mother of everyone. In 11 years, I've never received a training about, and that's not an excuse, but I'm from Mexico and that doesn't happen in Mexico, okay? I didn't have an idea that I was a mandated reporter. Now I'm working for, I'm in education now, and the first thing I received, even before, like, in my process to get into this specific school, was a training of being a mandated reporter. I didn't know, but, like, it didn't feel good. Like, why would you ask them not to do anything in order to protect the ICOC and not their daughter? Of course, later on, the daughter was is not. They're not members. This specific family was able to leave almost a year ago too. After all this, but they stayed. They believe because these were their leaders and they're close to God. That's what you're supposed to do. Um, so it's just so disgusting. And then obviously their daughter failed eventually. You chose to protect your church instead of protect me. You know how much harm that has done to their family. Do you know how much guilt these parents have dealt with? How much need they've been needing? And that was just like, oh no, I'll do it. Just forgive. And this same person who was abusive to one of these, this is the other case that I knew. The same person that abused this other girl, the other family, got to abuse, at least from what I heard later in Boston, at least two other girls underage, because this same couple allowed that to happen and everyone on top of them. So someone was asking if someone was asking if there's already lawsuits in Boston. Sadly, and this is also so heartbreaking for me. None of this, at the end, I ended up knowing about six, not one, nor two, six different abuse cases of abuse just in the Spanish speaking ministry. From what I know, just six, just in the Spanish speaking ministry. And I'm not saying just the region I used to lead, the entire Spanish speaking ministry in Boston. And none of them, to this day, none of them are suing, at least so far. And I
And
know that. Mhm.
why do you think it is that they're not suing?
Well, different reasons. I'd say, especially the women, the now women. Uh, at least I know from one of them that she's like ready to, left that behind. She has already dealt with that therapy, and she just wants to continue with her life, which makes sense, right? Like her entire life, their entire life got just absolutely fucked. So that's what I can think of. One of them. Another woman I can think of who's in their they're all in their early 30s now, all of them. uh Another one, she's being so like affected her entire life. She's been so affected, dealing with depression, dealing with, wanting to do harm to herself, dealing with substance abuse. There's no space for that. Like they fuck their entire life. She doesn't have the money. I know by her own mom, she told me that she doesn't have the money to pay for therapy. She can even like barely being able to live, to be functional.
Yeah,
And
and that makes
Mhm.
sorry, just to
No, no.
interject, that makes a lot of sense to me, but there are, the group of naysayers, the group of victim shamers, and I like to think that by this point in our channel's existence, that all of those have gotten bored with us, and they don't watch our videos anymore. But there
Mhm.
are just still those that lurk, and then either they comment here or they comment amongst themselves. Well, why don't they fight for themselves? Well, then why don't they just do better? Well, then why don't? But like you, there's so much new. You're tired. You're depleted not only of energy but of money. It's traumatizing to go through all of this, and so thank you so much for shedding some light on that nuance because it can seem like, well, why don't you just expose the injustice?
Yeah,
But
because
it's not that easy.
I remember some people in my ministry, in my region. I remember one specific sister who was like, Tania, you should just like calm down. Like, why are you making a mess from all of this? She was one of my disciples. And this woman asked me, like, don't you see? Not even the victims want to do anything. Why would you want to do anything? Why would you want to ask for something? Like, just just do what they're asking you to do. And I felt like I understood that this was coming from a place of, Tanya, and she told me, you're gonna lose your job. That's the only thing that will happen. She used to be a member of the staff too, many years ago, under that specific leaders who lied and manipulated. So she was also a victim. And even though in that, context, she was asking me, just go ahead with what they're asking you to do. And then some other people, women, and that's like kind of like the hardest part too, like women asking you to betray yourself. Some of them, some women in my ministry told me, Tanya, you're gonna affect Alberto. The centering of it.
No, the reason I go like that is because wait until you watch mine and Asha's live about the married ministry yesterday and
Oh,
what the women are told
I
in,
know, I
in marriage. So
know.
you have marriage, then with the layer of ministry on top of it for you.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, I this is the other thing. The other part of why do I think that so far I still have hope that they will eventually. all these women and men, because that's where I'm going now. Still have hope that they will get, if they want to, the strength to sue, to join the lawsuits, because one of the cases was a man, a brother, who was sexually harassed by the leader of the region, the minister, the staff member of the Boston ICOC. And it was not only him. And to this day, I have no idea how many men he harassed in the Spanish speaking ministry. I have no idea what exactly happened. I just kept hearing more and more people. He was the only one who was able to speak. And at the time, and that's why we ended up in Boston, because they fired them. We were brought instead of them. They used to lead the entire Spanish speaking ministry. So, uh, can you imagine how it is to be, again, a brother, a man, and deal with that? Like, there's another layer of shame. How am I going to say that this guy who's supposedly being my mentor for this number of years is trying to seduce me, is trying to get closer to me in a way that I never thought, and I never realized. So the strength that it took to him, to our friend, to speak, he was the one who eventually was able to speak, and that's why he was stopped and he was fired. But even him was allowed to say goodbye to the Spanish speaking ministry on his terms, and he's still a member. And this specific couple, they are still influential leaders in one of the regions in Boston.
Wait, the couple with the man who was abusing these people?
No, who was sexually harassing the men,
Or harassing.
and the ones who told at least these two specific families that I know firsthand, and friends of mine who told them, don't, let's forgive. And I reported it. They're still members of the Boston ICOC. They're still influential leaders, non-paid, of course, but they're still, like, they have a voice, they are there. And they got to say goodbye in their terms to the Spanish speaking ministry. So that is why, when I brought this to the staff, I was like, the Spanish speaking ministry has been treated like, as you said before, Nikita, second, third, fourth level, you know, of people, and they being disrespected, they being abused, they being traumatized, and not even with that, they're not thinking of suing the Boston church. The least we could do is treat them now with respect, because the thing is that after that email, you know how they said, well, we're not going to say anything publicly. We're not, okay, discuss it and decide with your region. Then the narrative changed, and the narrative was like, no, 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 don't discuss it. Wait, we're going to do something together. What I'm imagining, because again, even though we were region leaders, we were not in the, how would Hamilton said this, we were not in the room where it happened. So we were not invited to that room. But from the room where it happened, the line was, now we're going to give a specific communication to the entire Boston ICOC, and everyone is going to read it in Zoom. You're going to close comments. You're not going to take any questions before starting the Zoom meeting, where you're going to read this communication that we already checked with our legal counselor. You're going to specifically say, you cannot record any of this meeting. And if you have a question, wait and talk to your elder or to your region leader. So I I took advantage of another Zoom meeting where all the staff members of the Boston church were connected, even the interns, even the interns that they were doing this 1 year challenge that is called lately Cole Chance of a Lifetime, that started for, maybe this is the third year that they've been coming to Boston. Even the Cole interns were in that Zoom call, and I told them, like, I want everyone here know that this has happened in the Spanish speaking ministry, and this is horrible. And because at the time, um, all the Rolling Stone thing were called the drama of the Rolling Stone, like, uh, yeah, the humanizing all the situation. And I told them, well, this is happening. This had happened in Boston. These same situations, very similar situations, had happened here. Please consider how we're going to treat this. Our people, like the members of this ministry, deserved better. Um, so yeah, eventually the region leaders got together. We, the region leaders, got together, and that communication was not changed an inch, nothing. By this moment, I've already talked to all of the main leaders, including the main elder and their wives. I've already talked to all of them. I've already shared with them what happened, what I knew from the people that gave me permission to share. I was able to share even names, specific names, from some of them, and they didn't do anything. I was even talk, like, I remember getting together, well, on the phone with the leader of the whole Boston ICOC, and she started just trashing, literally trashing one of the. Uh, Remember that first lawsuit where there was one specific person suing Hope.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
I didn't know none of this. Like, I didn't know, but she told me, you know what, Tania, you should be very careful when you mention that these are victims. Like, you cannot say that, Tania. Like, this is supposedly happened, but we don't know. And I told them, I because I would call them survivors, like, hey, we really need to hear the survivors. And she said, no, you shouldn't say that, because I know about this specific situation. This person is from Boston, and I know her. And I know her since her teens. And she started telling me so much terrible things about her. I don't know her. I didn't know it was someone from Boston. And she just started telling me things like she had so many problems, not even her parents believe in her. And the parents are still members of the ICOC. That tells a lot. And I don't know anything about this. I don't know that this is a case in Boston. I don't. And I told her, well, yeah, certainly I don't know about everyone, but I do know about my friends, and their kids are survivors of sexual abuse. But she wanted me to, like, no, 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 you should stop saying those things because it's allegedly, and this is not how we're gonna treat, like, so they heard me, the elder, everyone, and they assumed I was gonna be okay with that. So when we get together with the region leaders, and um the lead evangelist bring again this communication that ended up, I didn't know at the time, but it ended up being a copy from the one that was given in Texas, in LA. It was like the same thing, and some of them there to publish them online. It was the same thing. Oh, we're so sad that some people, and we reject all kinds of sexual abuse. It was the same thing everywhere. I mean, not everywhere, but at least I know Chicago, Texas, and some places in Texas, and some places in definitely LA. They published the same, but in Boston, in Boston, the lead evangelist said, okay, we are going to read this, submitting, close the comments, tell the people that are there that they're not allowed to record anything, and make sure to only let people in this meeting. They need to identify. If they don't identify, they're not allowed to be in the meeting. And the only thing you're going to do is read this communication. And this was so fun too. He said, everyone needs to come to the office and pick their hard copy because this is not going to be sent in any electronic form. And I was appalled. I was like, why are we so scared? Why do we so care that much about being sued? Like, you don't even trust in your region leaders. Not even them can have that thing in electronic format. What
Well,
is this?
they knew because he sent that email in electronic format, and look at it now, it's on YouTube.
Exactly. And the thing is that and then it was so interesting because again, this is a meeting in person. It is already like 8 or 9 days after the Rolling Stone published article, and now we're discussing how we're going to manage it. Remember, initially it's like get to discuss with your region. Perfect, we can discuss it. We have a different situation, we can, and we did it. We actually got together with our leaders and told them this is what's happening. Feel free to read, feel free, this is the link for the lawsuits. We know this had happened here. If you need anything, come to us. If you need to go to authorities, don't even ask, just go. And in that meeting we communicated that he was so angry that we dared to disobey when they said we shouldn't do that, to
Oh, wait a
communicate, to
minute.
talk with our leaders. Yeah.
So just to be clear,
Mhm.
you and your husband told your region, if you need to go to the authorities, if anything has happened to you, go. And
it was
then
not it was not the region, it was the leaders of a region, because we haven't had time to get together with them yet. So it was just the leaders, the Bible talk leaders, the bigger group leaders. So we got together with them and gave them the links, gave them the time, like send them ahead of time to be ready for a meeting. And even there was a family who were one of those cases that I knew already about.
but so the leaders in your region, the message that you were giving them was, here are these links. If someone has experienced something like this, please go get help from the proper authorities. And that was, you and Alberto met with the leaders in your region so they can then tell the people in your region to go get help from proper, real authorities for any support they need. And when you reported that back to the main evangelist, they were mad that that's what you told your people, to go to the authorities and get help.
Yeah, in general, just opening the discussion. That was not, he was really mad and he said, that was not the direction I gave. Like, how dare you? That's not how we're doing things. So
So
it's
he
not
didn't
the
even want
region.
you talking about the email or talking about the articles with them
Nothing.
yet.
Nothing. Even though when initially they said in email, discuss with your leaders how to deal with this, and that's what we did. Then when we reported we did this and it went great, and we said that this is the like the unbelievable part. Like, it was great, our people is amazing, like they could be so angry, they could be like ready to sue anyone, like, and yet they're like, what are we gonna do to make sure this is not gonna happen to anyone again? Because all of them, they've been leading in this ministry for decades. They're all disciples, they're all members of the ICOCs, they've been here for more than 30 years, some of them. So they know these situations. We're not telling them any news. They know by rumors, by some of their friends. Somehow they know. Somehow they knew about what the evangelist, the previous evangelist, was doing to brothers. They knew. They even know more than me, probably. So the thing is that some of them were like, yes, please stop treating treating us like we're stupid. that we
So
don't know.
they
We
knew
know.
what was going on, and they were just happy that you guys were addressing it.
Yeah, they finally felt some respect. They finally felt like, great, finally you're not treating this like nothing is happening and that we just need to endure it. So, and no one was like, they were not angry. They were like, oh, finally, okay, now we're going to be honest. Excellent. And no, but he was mad. Anyway, so then he said, okay, so that's what we're doing, reading. Come and pick your hard copy at the office directly. Nothing is going to be sent online. And then he asked for, feedback. What do you think, region leaders? I was already ready with my hand up, like waiting for me to like let me speak. And you know, I've been working with this same group of people, region leaders, men and women, for 11 years. I could not believe their response. He gave usually the wives, the women leader, they never, almost never talk in the staff meetings with the region leaders, almost never. It's, you wouldn't believe it, or yes, you might believe it. So uh obviously 2 or 3 men raised their hands and said, well, I think this is the wisest possible way to deal with this. This is not only wise, it's thoughtful, it's compassionate. I just wanted to run. I was like, oh my God. Like the caucasity, the oh my God.
I love that. And I love that's one of your favorite phrases is
I know,
the capacity. I'm surprised this is the first time it's been said so far. 2 hours, and this is the first time you've said
I
it.
know, I know.
You're on your best behavior today.
Definitely. And just, like, and then just this echo chamber, of this is so wise. This is such a hard time. We cannot believe like what is happening, but we care about people. And eventually he had to give me, the opportunity to talk. And I said, this is not wise. Like, what are you talking about? This is awful. This just says we're so scared. Why are we so scared? Why you don't even trust or read your staff? Like, coming to pick a hard copy because you're not gonna even send it electronically. Fun fact, eventually Alberto got this electronic copy because guess what? It was not translated. So someone needed to translate it before, and Alberto got it electronically. Ah, they didn't even know. We had it electronically in Spanish. So the thing is that they were just saying, you're great, you're wise, this is the best thing. And I told them, I feel that I don't. I know my English is not perfect. Is not my first language, but I feel that I don't speak English at all. I'm not making myself clear. I'm telling you, and I'm going to repeat, similar cases in Boston had happened. Not only that, their own region leader sexually harassed men in the Spanish speaking ministry. When I said that, Nikita, they got so mad. One of them just like he couldn't, like, he stand up and screamed at me and said, you cannot say that, Tania. That's so inappropriate. And he was red. He was like, and I looked at, it was awful. It was awful, and eventually everything became about how
It
you dare. Mhm.
stood and screamed at you.
Yep.
An adult, someone, not that this should be anything, but someone else's wife, a fellow staff member, an adult, as a woman, someone who's supposed to be treated with gentle love and care as the weaker vessel that they love to preach. And because you said these things have been going on,
Hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now they're outraged. Like nothing makes them so angry like an unpleasant truth. And when you said you can't say these things, there are other conversations that people have told me about with men. Well, women do it too, but with men from this church, where the woman will say, well, this person has proven to have bad character, or this person, if you watch their actions, they're kind of just schemers, they're opportunists, or this person, they're manipulative. And then the response is, you can't say that, which is interesting because it's like, if that's what I've observed and that's what I've seen, I actually can. What you can't do is tell another grown person what they can't do. Like, how do you not see that that is absurd? That me, I work here just like you. I have the Holy Spirit according to your doctrine, just like you. And you are screaming at me and telling me as an adult what I can't do. Why do you not see the absurdity in that? So you are not anybody to me. You are not an authority to me, which is probably because they believe they are as the men. But like, it just blows my mind that all you did was say the truth,
Yeah.
and it caused this public that's, if that happened in an actual workplace, I cannot imagine the HR repercussions, the human resources response to that man publicly yelling at you, or even privately yelling at you in this. That is and that's not even the most absurd part of this story, but I just wanted to point that out, that all you did was say,
Hmm.
this man harassed people and he's still a region leader, and this man explodes at you. And did anybody come to your defense?
No, 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 no. On the contrary, that was a specific moment when they team up and bullied me in group again, as it is, usual. So the thing is that, uh, yeah, that was like the specific moment when finally two of the women's leader, like basically the ones that was discipling me for a number of years, she finally opened her mouth just to tell me, because this couple is in the region, just to say how inappropriate my comment was. And she was crying. How can you speak about someone who's not even here, Tania? That is so inappropriate.
The drama, crying
Crying.
think about someone who's not here. Meanwhile, you said earlier in this episode that what gets said about you is you guys were false teachers. You weren't there to defend yourself, but they have no problem saying that
Yeah.
and spreading that. They mean, how dare you defame one of their precious, one of their precious indoctrinators, one of their precious police, their precious spiritual. So crying, you were inappropriate and not him screaming at you. And this is why I love being able to have this platform, because when you experience it, it's all such a whirlwind. But when you're able to say it out loud, like, let's look at how weird this is.
It is so weird.
And she's crying, man, get it together. It is not that serious,
Yeah.
because it's not, sorry, go. It's just, ugh! And this is why I had to leave, because it drives me insane. You see, I'm short circuiting, I'm glitching. I had to leave this place because it doesn't make sense. I'm
Uh,
sorry. Okay,
yeah, for sure. And I feel like, eventually they someone is asking, if what did my husband say? And this is something we've discussed, and that's why I have no problem with sharing this. So remember that, what I've been discovered through therapy, I've been helpful. I don't think I was able to do this. I know it, I wish I could say so many things that I wasn't able to. I wish I could. I would never wait 20 more years after the Henry Cree letter. Um, But I'm happy that I now I know better and I can do better, right? And have some grace for myself. But yeah, through therapy, I discovered like how how similar the complex PTSD, CPTSD, it is like CPTSD. It's present when there's religious abuse, religious trauma. It can be there, right? And it is similar. The complexity of it, it's similar to someone who survived in a war, to someone who survived sexual abuse. And I came to understand like this specific trauma has to do with years and years of constant exposure to abuse, to gaslighting, to these ideas, that ideas. Like we've been here for almost 30 years, longer that I've been like not a member of the cult. I was a member of the cult. And there are so many layers, right? It's so complex. This trauma can be so complex. And that's why I have like after discussing this with my husband, like he was not able to react as he wish he would. I the only thing I was able to say is like when he said to me, "You don't like how you dare to, and this is inappropriate and you can't." I just turn and say, "Why not?" Right? That was I was able to, and then I was interrupted and then bullied by a group of people. And my husband was able just to say, "Why not?" You know, that's the best he could do. And it's sad because we were trained to obey, to follow instructions, and I know this is not, oh my goodness, when I say that, I feel like there is no excuse. Um, but indoctrination, it's real. Trauma is real. Abuse is real. And just getting to understand that we are not only we not only um, abused others like by indoctrinating them, by making them do things that we thought were the right thing, but being the oppressor and be oppressed, you know, being and be the same person, oppressed and oppressor. So yeah, that was the best we could do, and the best I could do. I mean, this same person, I wish I had the clarity, the mental clarity, Nikita, to go right after there, because we were at the office of the Boston ICOC. Right after there, just go. And not that was not the first time this guy was abusive with me. He Previous to that, I remember daring to say, "We are homophobic and sexist." And when I said that, this same white mediocre guy dared to say to me that I was sinful and blasphemous. That how would I dare to express like that about the church when he considered the church his mother? So many problems there. So I wish I had the clarity, the health, the strength to go right away and report it to HR. But that's not what you're supposed to do, because he's your brother. You know, it was a bad moment. This was the description. When we finished that meeting, this lead evangelist came to my husband and I and say, I just want to tell you guys, I'm so worried. I don't know what to do with you." That's how he started our conversation, his conversation with us. "I don't know what I'm going to do with you. So, Tania, what you're saying is that you are not going to do what I'm asking because you're not going against your conscience." I mentioned that. "I'm not doing it. I'm not going against my conscience." So he wanted to make sure. "So you're saying you're not going to do it because you're not going to go against your conscience?" "Yes, I won't do it." "Okay. Just let me remind you that you have a duty as an employee, a professional duty as an employee of the church. I'm not doing it. I'm not going against my conscience." And then I told him, and I want you to know something else. I want you to know that this guy can never talk to me again. He cannot come and talk to me again, or I will report it. And he immediately started excusing him. Oh, yeah, well, Tania, this is the thing. You are so strong. You come so strong and say things like people have never said things to me like you have told me. But I am mature. I am spiritual. I don't respond. But obviously, he's a young, he's 40 something. He's young. He's passionate. He has so much conviction and he still needs to learn as if he was an 18-year-old or something. So, uh, yeah, and you, Tania, you come so strong. You need to understand. It's not easy for anyone to respond to the things you say. So, uh, basically, we took advantage of that time and told them, well, we wish we could speak, really talk about this. I told him, I think this is a really great moment to take advantage of this opportunity and not only treat correctly our people with respect, with dignity, but also it is time to talk about other things that we haven't. Like, are we ready to stop telling singles who they can date? Are we ready to stop enforcing hitting kids, for and talking it as expressing it as discipline? Are we ready to stop saying that we are the one and only church? Are we ready? And I mentioned because the lawsuits, they don't only speak about this abuse, they speak about why we are a cult, why we are perceived and named as a cult. Wouldn't it be great to finally deal with this and recognize and say, let's start over, we're sorry? But it was too much. So yeah, after that, mm, I'd say they put us on a leave. um, our region was told that I was dealing, of course, what else? I was dealing with stress, and basically he came to a region he has never visited before. He came to say, the group, that I was dealing with stress because it is so, the ministry is so hard, and I had some mental issues. It is everything. Like, the fun part is that around 60 people in the region signed a letter and asked some questions to this group that was taking these decisions, this leadership group, and they just took the entire message he gave to the region and said, "You said that, you put Tania in a really bad position, talking about, like, insinuating some mental health situations, and what do you mean by this, what do you mean by that?" And Alberto and Tania had a great relationship with us. They have always treated us as adults, as spiritual people, and we can deal with whatever they need to share with us. We already listen to you. We want them to talk to us as they've always done. And they basically ask for 9 different things. And in one of our latest, in our last meeting with this group, the day on a March 31st last year, I told them, "Hey, a group of people send you a letter. They're still waiting for your answers." And the other said, "Oh no, that's not going to happen. We're not going to answer that." And
Just gonna ignore them. Just not
yeah,
gonna.
he told that without any shame. He told us that, like, and they dared to say to this group of people, when they gave the letter, when they read the letter to them, they were told, "Oh, wow, what a well written letter," thinking that was a compliment. Like, that was so racist and awful. Like, oh my goodness, you can write. And write actually well, by saying to them, that was such a well written letter. That's how you do things. You don't go around gossiping, you talk straight. And to our face they said, we're not answering them. That's not going to happen. Eventually, after those 8 weeks of being, being on a leave, we just came back to. Before that, they gave us how is it called? Warrant? No, warning. A warning. And in that warning letter, we were called uh, insubordinate, insubordinate, and that I was not. I didn't agree with the biblical role for women. Oh, because I mentioned that too. Tania is not in agreement with the biblical role of women in the church, and Alberto has taught uh, different doctrines. They could never name what exactly they were referring to, of course, even though when people asked. And yeah, eventually, when they just let us know that we were let go, um, they told us like, yeah, we're going to talk to your leaders, we're going to talk to your people. And they made sure everyone heard that they loved us, they wanted to help us, but um, it was not possible because we were not giving the results they were expecting. That was very helpful for a good number of people, because when they heard that, they were like, so what are we, numbers? Like, isn't was wasn't this supposed to be a church? Why are we talking about numbers and results? And um yeah, I mean, eventually we were the theme for a good number of sermons, um, being preached about how we were, publicly or privately teaching false doctrines, being false teachers, and
Were you guys
they, yep,
were you present for these sermons?
no, no, we were not.
Oh, but it's not inappropriate. It's inappropriate for you to call out what's true about someone else when they're not there, but they can preach whole sermons about you guys, and that's not inappropriate at all.
Yeah, yeah. So that day, when they let the region know that we were not going to be there anymore, they said, oh no, they're not here, because people were like, why are they not here? Why cannot we say goodbye to them? And they were like, no, no, they didn't want to. And then one of the one of the sisters took the phone, sent me a text, and said, Tania, they're here, they're saying you don't want, do you want to come and be here? And I said, of course. I was about to go, let me tell you, that Sunday I was about to go. Like, I want to be there and hear what they're going to tell about me, because they refused. The lead evangelist and the elder refused to give us in written the reasons why they were letting us go. They absolutely refused. He said, the lead evangelist said, oh, I'm going to tell you on the phone. And I told the elder, I don't need that. I need in written, because remember, English is not my first language. I want to know. Our meetings would be being so like full of emotions. I can't even remember everything we're being told. It's being so hard to be, we were bullied by what those meetings, those last meetings were one, two, three, four couples teaming up against us, the main leaders of the Boston church. So like, and they refused, they played dead. They, specifically the elder, the main elder that it's paid, he said things like, oh, I just read your email, let's see what the lead evangelist said, but I'm sure that he already spoke to your husband. I don't care, I need this in written, please, my voice is not there, you're talking about me to the leaders and to a region, and my voice is not there, I don't agree, I don't let you do this. You don't have my permission. And obviously, they hated my emails, but there were now other options. So, anyways, I was saying I was going to be there because we were not allowed to do anything. And this sister sent me a text, and she raised her hands and stand up and say, "Hey, I just texted her and she said she wants to be here." Like, and they were like, "Well, no, we don't think it's the best, option for them. They really need to be, let alone, don't call them, don't look for them, don't, like, they need to take time." And I'm really surprised.
So this whole thing, and I've just been so engrossed in your story, I haven't been thinking along this line. But right there, guys, when we talk about the behavior model, I mean the bite model, this right here is like behavior control and information control. Like, they're controlling the narrative, the information. No, we're telling you they're not here and they don't want to be here. So
Yeah.
then this one little rogue soldier, this rogue disciple is like, well, let me just go straight to the source. Let me get my own information. And then they change it and they realize, okay, well, we can't limit all the access to information. So let's address your behaviors. Don't talk to them. Don't call them. And that's again tied to the information, because if they're not talking to them, they can't get information. But like, again, how do you tell functioning free-willed people who they can talk to and not talk to, especially when, I think, Tanya, you've done a great job of painting the picture of how much they loved and trusted you and felt respected by you.
Hmm.
And I think even enough to, it makes me think of the scripture where Jesus says, "My sheep know my voice." Like, your group was like, "This doesn't sound like Tanya. This is what you're telling us about Tanya. It doesn't sound like Tanya." But
Hmm.
they're really being frantic to like
Hmm.
cut off their access to you and paint a different picture. Like, well, now we don't think it's best.
Yeah, we don't think that's the best for them. Uh, so the thing is that I'm really, it all happened so fast. At some point, I just felt, Nikita, that this is the hill I'm gonna die on. Like, and it's okay. Like, I feel that the survivors, all these women who dare to sue the ICOC and the ICC, they basically saved me and gave me the strength to finally be free. Like, they don't even know me. I don't know them. Well, now I know some of them. Uh, but they finally gave me what I couldn't find before. Like, I finally understood, this is not going to change. Your church is not different. Nothing is different. No matter how beautiful, how happy, how many flowers you can paint, you can share, it is the same thing, and it is not going to change. It is a cult, and cults don't change. It took this group of women, individuals, people, to dare and sue and ask for something, ask for, you know accountability, hopefully, at least money and justice, for me to realize, look, I was a region leader in Boston. I mean, this is not, I don't know, I don't want to, you know, hurt anyone, but this is not a little town in the middle of nowhere, right? This is the mother of the churches where everything started. I was a region leader for more than 11 years in Boston, and it didn't help. The moment I asked for something, this was not the only situation, obviously. There were more. When we discuss the women's role, oh my goodness, awful. But this part of not being able to treat with respect people that have been abused, exploited, and, you know, treated like they don't matter at all. And they're not even trying to hurt you at all. They're not even, well, we even asked for this. Since this communication said, well, whatever there's in our hands to help anyone who suffered anything from this situation, let us know. We will do whatever is in our hands. I told a group of these people, a group of the people that talked to us, who given us their permission to share their names. I said, hey, what if we ask the Boston church to pay for your therapy? Would you be open for us to ask for that? Because they said it in their communication. I knew the answer, Nikita. I knew. I just want them to prove themselves again. So Alberto went to the main elder, the one who was so worried about our brothers and sisters, and who wanted, and they got together with some of them for sure, because they really wanted to make sure they were not going to do anything. and and Alberto told them, "Hey, we have these names. They gave us their permission to share their names. Since this is what the communication said, they're open for the Boston ICOC to pay for the therapy. What do we do so we can give them this? What we say? Anything?" The elder just said, "Oh, no, that's not what we meant. No, 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 no. What we meant was we could give them the direction of good therapists, the names of trusted therapists, right? And I mean, and that's not like, one time I got together with the women's leader of the entire Boston church and my discipler. And when I was telling them, this is spiritual abuse, this is religious trauma, this is spiritual violence, and I've been learning this and I've been dealing with that. I was at some point a couple of years ago, I was asking for a sabbatical, that it was refused for me. This same type of treatment was given to white men in the Boston ICOC without them asking. They gave them sabbaticals, and to me they told me, no, that we don't have a policy for that. No. No, 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 no. And I told them, it's because I've been dealing with this. I've been abused by these religious leaders here in Boston, and I had to give names to them. They just want to make sure that I was not meaning sexual abuse. When they hear me say it was religious abuse of power, they were like, no, 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 no. Tania, those things you're saying, the women's leader told me that in that meeting. Those things you're saying, those are very worldly things, very worldly therapists. So be careful of that. There are very worldly therapists.
More information control and thought control. You can go to a therapist, but only therapists who are also members of the ICOC or who are not going to tell you things like that.
Yeah. And I told them, I don't even want to give you names, because the moment I give you names of who've been abused with me here in the Boston staff, that moment, uh, I'm gonna expose myself. So I don't even want to give you names, but okay, I will give you names. Very, but same guy that called me sinful and blasphemous, and how do I dare, how am I so inappropriate, and other very beloved members of the staff. And they even brought one couple I mentioned in that meeting. They brought it to all our meetings where we were let go. And I told them these specific people were abusive with me, and you're bringing them to these meetings. Like, there is no training, no understanding, but no willingness to educate or to train themselves. They don't know what religious abuse is, but they don't want to know. They don't know what complex PTSD is, but they don't want to know. They don't want to be taught by professionals. I even asked them, this is one couple that I mentioned being abusive to me, and you're bringing them now. And you're giving them, they give a region to this specific couple. Like, I mean, there was no hope, right? But the thing is that they really don't believe. And I told them, this is not about not me not forgiving. This is not about forgiving. This is not about you know, make peace with people. This is about abuse of power, abuse, religious abuse, and religious trauma. And I need a sabbatical. And I told them, I think this specific privilege are only meant to white men in this church, not for me, not for a woman of color, not for me. It's only for men who don't even ask for help. So this is kind of like, again, even though when you think, oh, but these people should be trained, right? They're professionals. They've been doing this for decades. Well, no, they probably study something like me. I study international relations, but but that doesn't have to do with you are trained to find the specific places where you need to be alert on abuse your power, spiritual power inventory. There's no spiritual power inventory. There's no there's no training on even basic things. As I said, in 11 years I worked for the Boston ICOC. I never received a training that said how to act, where to go, what to do exactly as a mandated reporter. So I'm so thankful to all these individuals who dare to raise their voice and fight those lawsuits, because I finally was able to see there's no change, there's no hope.
And not only is there no change and there no hope, and this is something that Asha and I talk about pretty regularly, when you do try to implement change, you get put on leave, like what you were done. And again, I wanted to tie this back to kind of like the place where you catapulted into this story
Mm.
after the Henry Crete letter in 2003. You wanted to leave, but you were convinced, because you even stepped down from leadership, just to kind of like recap for anyone who forgot or anyone who's just hopping on. You didn't leave because you were so craftily convinced, someone persuaded you, if you stay and if you devote your life to being in ministry instead of stepping down like you did, you can be the change agent. Oh my God, aren't we so grateful for Henry Crete's letter?
Mm.
Please, your voice is so needed. Your fire is so needed. Tania, if you lead, you can implement the change. Fast forward 20, 20 years, the same things are happening. Worse things are being exposed. I believe they were happening then, but they're exposed now.
Mhm.
And you're trying to be the change because you've been now in this ministry, in Boston ministry, for 11 years. You would think that your voice, your opinion, your observations mean something. Um,
Mm.
but then when you speak up and you try to change, you get put on leave. And then not only did you get put on leave and told for your members there to not reach out to you, didn't they take like a bigger step to make sure you and your husband didn't have any more impact?
Oh yeah, yeah. Eventually, they felt bold enough to send a letter, an email around ministries, Spanish-speaking ministries in the United States, and Latin America and the Caribbean, to let them know that we were no longer members and that they should be like careful with the things that we were sharing and saying. Uh, and I was really surprised, as I said before, Nikita, I was really surprised. I didn't know I was that important, because people started contacting my husband, especially my husband. Hey, all the way from Argentina to Peru to Dominican Republic to Guatemala, obviously all the churches, all the branches in Mexico. What is happening? What are they talking about this to you? Like, why? And this is the thing, especially my husband. He knows so many of the leaders. We know so many of the church leaders around Latin America and the Caribbean, and Spanish speaking ministry in the United States. Some of them, some of them, even friends with my husband, especially, they just read or shared what it was sent to them from Boston without even daring to ask, like, what is happening? One of them, one of them talked to my husband and said, what is happening? Can we talk? And I told him he just wants to gossip because he already shared this with his church there in Central America. He already did what he was asked for, and now he's asking you what is happening. Like, and Alberto said to him, of course, let's talk. Let's talk, brother. But first, send me the letter, the email that was sent to you that you shared with your church so we can talk. Obviously, he never wrote back. So that was very interesting because like this willingness to control, this this desire, this, I'd say, like, how do you say that? When you are like out of this world, you don't understand that this is like, you cannot stop me from sharing this. And if you ask people to not do it, guess what's going to happen? I mean, everyone loves the Jews. So they will listen no matter what. And more people gets to feel heard and seen, and like, I'm not alone. This happened to, I didn't know this was called exploitation. I didn't know this was called labor trafficking. I didn't know this was called spiritual abuse, religious trauma. I didn't know this was lighting. I didn't know this was grooming, right? So the last frontier that I needed to cross, when we were let go, uh, was when they said, okay, so, you know, we are not obligated to give you anything. We're not obligated to give you anything. This was news for me. This is the thing. Why some people have asked me why you didn't quit before. This is my honest answer to that. So it's been more than 20 years, okay, in general. Boston, 11 years that we've been working for them. And in Mexico, the labor law is they need to give you, how do you call that, Nikita, when someone fires you or let you go?
Severance.
Yeah, they're obligated by law. I'm talking about Mexico, to give you this compensation, right? According to the number of years you've worked. So if it's 1 year, it's less. If it's 11 years, it's more. So we assumed, like, we're gonna lose our jobs. We've been in this situation before with no job at the same time. The two of us, we've been there before. So let's wait for them. Like, and also they need to justify, why are you letting me go? What are you gonna say? They never mentioned to people the lawsuits. Or Tania was trying to put this on the plate. Or Tania, of course, they were not. They said we were not effective. They said we were, in a very bad position spiritually. And they were trying to help, but we were not allowed, especially me. And they were very clear. We could work with Alberto, but it was not possible to work with Tania. So we thought, okay, they need to justify why they will let us go. But I honestly thought labor law will be the same here in the United States. And to my surprise, sad surprise, was like, yeah, it is true. No one is obligated to give you anything. Oh my God. Now I laugh, but that was shocking. And and the lead evangelist told us that day they let us go exactly a year ago. He said, well, we're not obligated to give you anything, but we are going to give you a severance. We're going to give you 5 months so you can, stand up, get on your feet, blah, blah, blah. But this severance would be tied to our, perspective of you not being telling anything negative. And if we hear that you say anything negative about the Boston church, about us, the staff, the elders, or anyone, that is off the table at that very moment. And the severance is just given like every month we'll see how things are going with you. and, and I feel like this is the last frontier I need to cross. It is so scary. I even felt irresponsible. Honestly, I felt irresponsible. Like I won't accept it. They don't own me. They're not taking my voice away. They can take that job away from me. I understand that. Uh, but they won't own me. And I need the money. I will lose my job right away today, along with my husband at the same time. Uh, but I won't do that. I didn't sign anything.
And that just, I don't know that you necessarily need me to validate or affirm you in any way, but
Mm,
that just speaks so much to your character and the strength of your integrity. And what's so funny is I remember hearing lessons and being at ministry teaching and training programs where they talked about integrity and how it means being the same on the inside as it is on the outside, and some, Greek background, whatever, and how it's so important for people in the ministry to have integrity and be the same everywhere. But here are these leaders that when some of their members come and bring them their concerns in writing, they say, "Oh, what a wonderful letter. How well
mm,
written. That's amazing." But then they won't tell them, but they tell you, "Oh, we're never going to answer that. We're never going to answer that." Or like they're just so duplicitous, like so two-faced. They don't have integrity at all, but they're trying to back you into a corner. They know you need the money. They know that they've robbed you of valuable work experience. They know that they're not going to be a good reference for you. They know the position that they put you in,
mm,
and then they're going to try to control you by dangling this money in front of you. And I bet they did not expect you to have the integrity that they preached about, which again just goes to show how little they pay attention to us. Because it's like, haven't you been paying attention? Don't you know who Tanya is at this point? If she's saying all of these things, what makes you think she's really going to change? But it's because they would. Like, but that's so evil, and I'm so
mm,
just grateful to know you. I'm so grateful you exist
mm,
in this space. Um, and I'm sorry that you were ever put in that position. That's scary. Your livelihood, like that's your family. You have a son, like that they did that to you. But because of that, and obviously so many other elements of your story, that is why I'm so glad we connected. That's why I'm so glad that
mm,
you agreed to come on and share your story. It was so funny the way Tanya and I connected, just to take a side step. I saw her leave a comment on Steve Hassan's Instagram page, and she mentioned the ICOC. And you don't see a lot of people in the cult space specifically name the
mm.
ICOC. So I immediately comment, "Oh my God, I love the ICOC too." Then she comes in my DMs, "Oh my gosh, I love your channel." And then the more we're talking and I learn about her, and I'm like, "Ma'am, I have a YouTube channel, but you literally had a letter sent out all across the United States and South America about you, and the Caribbean. You are clearly infamous. Like you are the legend here." And so it's just so fun meeting someone else with so much like
Yeah.
fire and like, "I'm gonna say it." And it's like, yes, yes. And so I'm just so grateful you're here. But I
Yeah.
just I just want to acknowledge that, like, just the extent of your integrity and how evil they are and were. And I'm just so happy you're here. But okay,
Mhm.
keep going.
Thank you, Nikita. So yeah, it felt, they never named it as an NDA, obviously, but it felt like one, like the very specific things that they were going to police about me, the specific things that they wanted to avoid from me. So uh, it was honestly a pleasure to just ignore them. To keep receiving, like, have you read it, have you signed it, there's a specific time that I had to sign it, and just ignore them, just not answering anything and feeling like I won't be, as you said, I won't be your bitch. I am not. And I the part that I felt irresponsible was like, I wish it would just affect me. It's going to affect my family, it's going to affect my husband and my son, but I don't care what I'm going to do. Like, I'm not afraid of working. I've been working. I haven't not only worked in the church as many of the staff ministry. I've worked in different jobs all these years. So, and yeah, I'm older, I might not have, at the time you feel like, or I felt like, I don't know what I have to offer outside of the cold, but there must be something. So it was a relief to let that go and feel this is the last frontier. This is the last frontier, and I'm crossing it, and I'm free. So that beautiful day, a year ago, March 31st, I once I, and the audacity, the caucasity, because they told us, well, don't come to the south region that we used to lead, but take a week. Oh my goodness, they were so generous that the elders said to us, take a week, guys, to decide what region are you going to worship with. I just had to laugh. I'm like, these people, it's out of this, they're out of touch. And it was like, no, you will never hear from me again. And that day I blocked everyone in the ministry in Boston, everyone, because there was a time to reach out to me, to ask me about the people who suffered all these things. There was a time to reach out to me and ask, what is happening, Tania? I cannot believe my brothers and sisters went through this. What can I do? Especially from women leaders. They were silent. Not even a hair from their heads were moved. They didn't care about not one in the Spanish speaking ministry I was talking about. So I blocked everyone, all of them. Get in touch with me. It is a privilege. And they lost it. So that day I shunned them out of my life. And I never came back. And later on, another great thing that happened, these people who wrote this letter, around 60 of them, our region was 120, kind of 120 people, more or less. And I'd say after that, after we were able to leave, uh, around 2/3 of the region stopped attending the Boston church. I don't know where they are. I'm not the police of them. I'm not following anywhere. Um, some of them that contacted us have been visiting different churches, trying to find a safe place for them. Some others, they've been giving themselves time. And a small group even asked Alberto to if he will be open to pastor them, a small group. And yeah, he's actually pastoring them. And I'm so proud of all of them because they're doing the best they can with all this, trying to make sense. But at least I'm so happy that at least 2/3 of the region got free. They got out, and that's something I feel very proud of them. So That's just really amazing. And of course, that was seen as, and we they said, in the ICOC, they said this was their plan since the beginning. They wanted to divide the Boston church. They wanted to divide the Spanish speaking ministry. They wanted to make their own church. And listen to this, this was Tania's plan all the time. She just wanted to preach on Sundays.
Which is crazy because you're not even involved with the pastoring of the group. Are you? Like your husband's leading now.
I'm not, but they have invited me to preach a couple of times, which I'm really happy, and I do it because I love them. But I know, and it's so funny, like all the theories, the conspiracy theories, the ideas they being making in their minds, uh, and just being able to, especially Alberto sharing with this group, saying like, "Hey, we don't know if this is, something temporary. I just want you to know that if you need someone to walk with, I'll be there to the best of my abilities." And the other thing that it was very powerful for me to hear from this group was, it was like, okay, they don't have any right on taking away our community. They were not our community. This community was built by us. Why would us just let them take our community away from us? So we built this. We need our community. We don't want to lose it. We know some people just are just trying to find another safe place to be or practice or worship, but we want to be together. I don't want to be alone, and that makes sense, right? Like, it makes sense to them. And I'm glad that you were able to say, um, they don't own us. This is our community. These are my friends. These are the people that I want to continue my spiritual journey with. And yeah, you know, they're gracious enough to invited me sometimes to preach, which is really fun because that that gives them that, see, that's all she wanted. She wanted to lead this church. She wanted to preach. So yeah.
Which is so funny because it's not like you seeking it out or you doing it all the time. It's literally just when they ask you, but they paint that narrative that this is what you. Well, it just doesn't make any sense. It's such a reach and such a stretch. But I know one thing that a lot of people, especially who build their families in these organizations, that they have to consider, like you said earlier, and that was about like the financial instability thing. Like, oh my gosh, it's not just going to affect me; it's going to affect my husband. It's going to affect my son. If you feel comfortable sharing, what was it like for your son? Like, did he ever share his perspective? Was he impacted? Like, did he lose friends
Yeah.
or was he very supportive of you guys? Or, but then I do also know that the internet and what we share about our children on the internet, it can be a sensitive thing. So if it's something you don't really want to share or he's not comfortable with you talking about, I totally respect that. But
Oh, thanks for
curious.
asking. I think what I can say is that he's being uh, so so loving, so with us. Like, um, he's being really, really great with us. Like, one of the things that I would love to share is that at some point he said, "Well, but isn't it church the people we choose to walk with?" Like our friends, the people that we like to spend time with, isn't that the church? Like, that's not gonna happen. That's not gonna change, right? Like, nothing's gonna change. And our friends will stay. And that was really nice to hear because he doesn't like to tie or has this idea of this is the church, right? And him being able to name it was really powerful and healing. And we told them, well, yeah, we think so, right? But it is also true that maybe some friends might will just change direction, and that's okay. Like, people would change their minds, and they might won't be here anymore. So, and that's okay because it's their choice and it's their journey. So that's been really good, and I think I I definitely wish, like, that's why I'm very thankful with all these um individuals who were able to sue, because I mean, again, centering them and say it is so worth it. Like, not only, I cannot imagine how many people is healing from, since January 2023. Hopefully many, like, same as you, Nikita. I keep receiving messages, private messages, to tell me their stories, what they went through. And this is just the United States. Can't you imagine all the things? You can't imagine all the things that had happened in Mexico, in Central America, in the Caribbean, like in South America. All the stories, all the things. And so many of these people are just breaking free, feeling like I was not making this up. And that impact, that kind of impact has been, all over, literally, I'd say at least around my world. The Spanish speaking people has been impacted by this, and I'm really happy because um, it's 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 been helping so many of us, and I'm one who was, you know, uh, being strengthened by their strength. I wish they would never had to be this strength. I wish. And at the same time, I'm happy that they are, and I've been strengthened by their strength. So that part is very special. So yeah, and all kinds of things as you said, like, there's so many things to discuss, like, I think when we talk about the Spanish speaking ministries in the United States, there's definitely this part of how some people decided to treat the undocumented people who studied the Bible. Like, it's all over the place, and how the narrative in Boston was always like, yeah, but here we have always loved our brothers and sisters from the Spanish speaking ministry. See, like, it is so strange to have a huge Spanish speaking ministry in a place that is not California or Texas, for example, or New York. Like, from all the places, Boston, because we've always cared, we have always loved them, right? So yeah, and I I also been feeling like free enough to continue healing, to give myself space to wonder, to see what's next, and not to feel that I'm obligated to anyone, right? So that's just really beautiful, for me. And I wish more people feel, especially the ones who deserve justice, in a court of law. I wish they can have whatever they need to continue healing. If I could do, like, something from the place I am, is like, I wish you receive what you deserve, some form of justice, and hopefully not only the space but the money you deserve for all the damage you received, right? So, and continue healing from, even naming at some point, after leaving the ICOC, dealing with the shame that it feels just to name I got out from a cult, and I did my best, and I thought it was God's willing. And then, some people have also questioned me, like, yeah, you say this now, but before, the church brought you to the United States and changed your life, and you're so ungrateful, and why are you treating them so bad, and now you speak bad, and now you trash them, and I'm like, yeah, probably. I don't know. I mean, I wish I knew better before. Like, I know better now. I will do better now. And yeah, so you haven't asked me, Nikita, but the ICOC, it is a very dangerous cult. And there's a good number of people that I love that are still there, that still believe that they're gonna make a difference. Um, that they need to stay because from the inside, like I have some dear people who, your close people to me that have said to me, Tanya, you're doing your part now that you're outside, but there's something I still need to do inside. And I'm like, oh my god, uh, and I cannot leave this process for you, right? But I wish I wish not no one else need to recover from the ICOC. And I want to take advantage of this space to say also I'm sorry if you knew me before and I told you what to do, or I told you what God thought of you, or um, yeah, all the things that I did, believing this is what I'm supposed to do because this is God's willing. And I'm also very thankful for all the people who trusted me, who to this day believes in me, joins me, celebrate things with me, laughs with me. And I wanted to say thank you for that, because I've been I haven't been alone. And even though we're in different, different pace, different journey, my husband has been also uh, amazing, uh, loving, recognizing, growing, and deciding his own path too, with in respect of how he will, live his spiritual life, or how he will serve other people. And yeah, thank you also to you, Nikita, and Asha, and everyone who will see this long video. And thank you for all the comments that you've been putting over here.
Oh, well, thank you, Tanya, so much for taking so much time out of your day to come in and share this. And um, I did just
Pleasure
want
being
to. I don't really know how to make this a seamless connection. It's going to be so disjointed.
here.
Um,
Okay.
but it just kind of feels like, but you didn't say this thing. You didn't say this thing. And I just think it is so egregious.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you please, and it doesn't have to be really long, but can you please tell about how your physical appearance was made an issue at
Oh
one point?
yeah. Oh my goodness. Yes. So the first time this happened to me was when I was in my 20s. There specifically, I was in Cuba. So for some reason, it's a different country, different food, and the stress that you are not allowed to name, of being working nonstop as a missionary. So I gained like five 5 pounds, 10 kilos. I can remember, like 10 or 5 pounds, and and the couple, specifically the husband, the evangelist who discipled the mission there in Cuba, sent the word not only to me, but to the other missionary too, my friend. uh, Sent the word that he wanted us to know that it was a shame to be fat, like we were fat, and how come a missionary can't be fat. And I assure you, I was not fat. I was not fat. I mean, what is the problem with that in the first place? But I was 21. I don't even know, but not even it didn't make sense. He just didn't like, we didn't look like the skinny white lady who's representing the cult. So yeah, he said that we needed to lose weight, both of us, because we were fat. And how we dare to become fat when we are living in a country where there is not and like too much food. So
Okay, well, thank you for someone said that's why she was never coerced to go on mission team. There you go.
yeah, yeah, and you know this part of like I remember being told by men like, oh Tania, you shouldn't be dressing like that. You're pretty, but nobody's gonna like you when you dress like that. Because I was at some point just wearing wet sweatpants and sweatshirts, and then here in Boston the other day, I remember the previous main elder here in Boston, not the one that is now, but the previous one day I was just wearing these leggings, like very festive leggings from, I don't know, Christmassy theme, because I'm just like that. I sometimes I wear, colorful things. And I was wearing those leggings, and he approached me and say, I I at the beginning I was like, what did he say to me? I Maybe I didn't understand what he was saying. He approached me, the elder, and he said to me, "You are so confident, Tania. I'm seeing it, those leggings you're wearing. You're so confident." And like kind of smiling, laughing. And I was so naive, I didn't get what he was like trying to say to me. And then after time, time, I felt like, what a terrible thing to say. Like, the elder, the main elder, the wisest of the wisest in the Boston ICOC. First of all, what are you doing looking at my leggings? Like, and who are you to say you're so confident, Tanya? Like, what are you trying to say? But I didn't say anything, obviously. I didn't say anything. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
what can you say? What can you say?
And,
Um,
and someone one day said about my son's hair. Someone said, "Oh my goodness, he used to wear his hair like, he had big hair, curly." And she dared to say, "Oh my God." One day he decided to cut his hair, and she said, he looks so nice now, because he looked awful before." And it was like, no, this is not. She didn't say that. No.
what is wrong with these people?
No. And these are the top of the spiritual, aspiration you may have in Boston, in the ICSC in Boston. Like, there is no there's no one over there. Like, this is the top. so so yeah, but you know what? Like, we just get used to say whatever we want to say. We ask for whatever we want to ask. We direct and expect people to comply. So, anyways, it's not fun, but at the same time, again, it's like, why should I endure any of this? Who are they, right? Who are they at all? So yeah, encouraging and sharp, and so many words that are so weird to hear and to say, and that are triggering for sure.
Yes. Well, Tanya, thank you again
Oh.
so, so much. I'm so grateful. I feel so fortunate to know you. I feel so fortunate to be able to call you a friend,
Hmm.
to be able to laugh with you, cry with you, celebrate with you, try to grow with you, just in life endeavors. Of
Yeah.
me being able to text you randomly, can you proctor this for me?
Yeah,
Um,
why
like
not?
you're like, sure, I guess. Um, and just this community. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful that we could meet on this side of things. And so I put her Instagram handle up here, guys. If you cannot tell already, which I think you probably can, she is just a real jewel, a real firecracker. She pulls no punches. I'm sure she would be happy to hear from you if you slide in her DMs, but not with any mess, okay? Don't try to ask to meet her for coffee or can't you see the other side? She has made it very clear she has never seen the other side. She was bamboozled into staying, thinking she could make a difference, and that didn't happen. So she left. No, she doesn't want to hear about things are good or about how your city is different. She doesn't want to hear that. So I don't want to be responsible for her receiving any of those crazy messages. Only people who get it in the DMs or who want to get it. None of this pretend stuff.
Some people would say, "Oh, that's because in the Spanish speaking ministry is terrible," and I believe them. Like, I mean, we probably in the Spanish speaking ministry tend to be 10 years in the past. So when I moved from Mexico to Boston, I thought I made a jump ahead in time 10 years, and this was the Spanish speaking ministry. Like, another example, it's the Henry Creed letter. The Henry Creed letter in the Spanish speaking ministry in Boston, almost no one knew anything about it. Here in the United States. So, and they were told, don't read it because it's spiritual pornography. Here, the same leadership that were before, those same people told them it's spiritual pornography, don't read it. But most of them wouldn't because they would obey, and some others because they wouldn't read English.
That reminds me of um the chattel slavery that happened in the United States, and when the Emancipation Proclamation was read saying that they were free, that because slaves couldn't read and didn't know and didn't have access to information, that for decades, possibly longer. Yeah, because I think even some, I don't want to say recent, relatively recently, there are
Mhm.
still very, very tiny towns and communities
Mm.
where people were still using like there were slaves who didn't know they were free for so long because no one was giving them the information and making sure that they got that decree. And of course, that wasn't going to benefit the master, the landowner. And so, similar here, like, oh, let's not worry these Spanish speaking people's little heads. Let's not trouble them. Let's just not give them the information. I remember you even saying that once some of these Spanish speaking countries got the letter about you and Alberto, that they were hitting you up like, what Rolling Stones article? Wait, what's going on? Or I've been seeing these things, but I didn't know where I could go to talk to. Because they were just cut off from from this stuff. And so I'm grateful that even your presence and your rebellion has opened a whole new
Mhm.
population eyes and given them words, like you were saying earlier, given them words for like what's going on, and that they may be slow to catching up on because there is kind of like that 10-year lag. But that's just what it made me think of, like how sad that the colonizers, right? Because it was that skinny white lady who came to you in Mexico to train you for the mission field, that they get to control the story. They get to write the narrative. History is written from the perspective of the victor. And so, yeah, I'm hoping that with your presence here on this channel,
Mm.
that and this being an international, thing, that more and more people, their eyes are able to be opened.
Yeah, and like there's so many things, but the last thing I want to share about this, it's Nikita, all this colonizing work the ICOC has been doing for since forever. It is so destructive, and it goes all the way to like the simplest um, things, like, for example, and I mentioned this to you before, like nobody knew my last name, and they didn't care. So this is not a thing in Mexico. You get married, you don't change your last name. Probably my grandma, probably my grandma, when she got married, officially she might change it. It's awful too, but anyways, it was her name, and then de, meaning of, and the last name of the husband, which is awful, right? It reminds me to The Handmaid's Tale, which is of Fred, right? If you read or have seen that series, the women are, their names are changed, and now they're not, I don't know, Jessica or whatever. They're off Fred. It's the property of this man. Anyways, so probably they will add the last name of the husband in Mexico, like my grandma, not my mom. So let alone my generation, they won't change your last name. And yet in Mexico, all the evangelists and their wives, they're called by the last name of the husband in a country where that is not a custom, that is not a thing. And I'm talking about Mexico, I'm talking about Central America, I'm talking about all the places where the colonizing work of the ICOC have been. Not only that, the weddings. Nobody have a wedding like the weddings in the United States. But then the weddings became like the in the United States because of the ICOC. So in Mexico, in the ICOC, they get married as they get married here. So that's, again, that's the more superficial thing, but it is pretty awful. So, and then imagine with other cultures, this is a different culture. And I've been working, I've been, like, part of my spiritual journey right now, it's definitely decolonizing. It's my spirituality journey. It is about decolonizing because um, this is not my religion, right? Like, and specifically decolonizing from the white evangelical American Protestantism, where the ICO is part of. This is such a specific way that we were colonized in Mexico. It is an evangelicalism, a white evangelicalism, and it has very specific, like, tentacles, and I want nothing to do with that specific form, expression of Christianity. And I've been discovering a lot of peace, a lot of connection in connecting with my roots, with my ancestors. I'm definitely all in with being LGBTQIA plus affirming. I don't care. I don't even need a biblical back or source. I don't need it. I don't care. Because the ICOC had done so much harm to that community. I mean, if we were not able to do anything to be in a better place as women, that will never happen with the LGBTQIA community. That will never happen. And it has costed so much pain in lives. So I am affirming, absolutely affirming. I don't care. I don't need any backup from non-scripture. I don't need it. I don't care. And I will continue decolonizing my faith. That's my process. I'm very happy in it. I'm not afraid. I'm not scared. And especially, I think it's been very, very, very good for my heart. One of the things that used to scare us, and probably you talked about this in your marriage episode, but one of the things they get to scare us a lot, it's what is going to happen when you and your husband don't believe the exact same thing. Guess what? We've never have believed the exact same thing. So get to continue choosing each other, especially now that we are in a very different journey, and it's perfectly fine. And we are not scared anymore of not thinking the exact same thing, which doesn't even exist, and feeling that I can still walk with my friend, and that can be different because we're just human. I don't know, but so far we're still being able to, or willing, not able, but we willingly choose to continue walking together. And it is not true that it's like it's awful, it's the monster. It's in Espanol we say el coco, ooh, the monster up, if you don't think exactly the same. That is not true, and I'm very happy for that, because this is my journey, this is his journey too, and I'm glad we get to share it together. And I'm so proud of the richness of my culture, of my roots, of my ancestors. And I got to see a meme the other day. The one that it puts a brain and then someone who's trying to sleep, different squares. And the brain is saying, hey, psst, remember when you used to think that colonization was something good because it helped the the news, spread yeah, the Bible. And I was like, oh, that hurt. But I'm so glad that it's um it's beautiful. Like all those fears. I don't need this. I don't need this specific God at all. I still like Jesus. I still like him, to be honest. Um, but I feel like I'm so happy I don't need anymore that specific God I was taught by this cult. And I will continue decolonizing my faith and trying my best to just love, to give love the best that I can, um, and be a cheerleader, be happy for the victories of all the survivors everywhere, for survivors from all kinds, and yeah, and do my part. So that was
Mm.
the thing I wanted to finish with.
Speaking of survivors and supporting survivors, I see someone asked if you have any resources for healing. It's kind of like a broad question,
Mhm.
open-ended, but do you is there anything specifically that helped you, like a podcast or a book or a person? I don't know.
Hmm. Thank you for the question. I've been in touch a lot lately with a great group of women who are actually survivors from La Luz del Mundo. Have you heard of that awful, horrible cult? La Luz del Mundo, it is a group that initiated in Mexico, and the leader, the apostle, the Jesus on the earth, basically, is now in jail in Los Angeles for trafficking and abuse of minors. Anyways, so they are a great resource. They are like doing a lot of work in Spanish, and they're on Instagram. I can share you that resource with you, but I'd say there's still a lot of work to do. Like, information to have it in Spanish, it takes time, and people don't have it. And so yeah,
But did
I
you say
say
they're on Instagram? I'm not sure if you froze for everyone, but you froze for me for a second. Did you say
yeah,
they're on
yeah, yeah.
Instagram? Okay.
So you can also follow them. They're doing amazing job, an amazing job with. Oh, okay. No, it's not allowing me to. But yeah, if you can send me a private message on, I think it's Laura, right? Laura, if you want to send me a message on Instagram, I can share you with some resources that are in Spanish. And yep, But we need more of that. They're really great. They're survivors from this awful cult, and it's two sisters who managed to escape La Luz del Mundo, and they being members since, I mean, they've been part of that cult since their great grandma. So, three generations, like since the beginning of that cult. And yeah, I don't know if that helps, and I can think of more if you send me a message over there. Oh, can hear you.
Okay, how about now?
See.
Okay. Oh, my mic died, which is, I think, sign that it's about time to
Yeah.
wrap it up. But oh gosh, I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yes, if you are watching, please subscribe, subscribe and stick around. Um, and we hope to have more and more fun together. Hope to have Tania come back.
Mm.
Always free to slide in my DMs or my email. Let me know if there are things you want to see, topics you want covered, and things of that nature. But guys, again, just as always, please stay safe and stay free, because every day is a good day not to be in a cult. So see you next time.
Yeah, see you. Gracias, Bibi. Gracias, Bere. Thank you, Nikita. I love you so much.